I swear, the system is increasing the energy costs on its own for some reason. It probably wants more energy and is asking for more, Ning said as he read the beast taming technique in front of him. The technique made one able to use chi to create mists that could be slowly manipulated to form a certain brand called the ascending brand. Thus the technique was called ascending mist brand. I think I understand what it is trying to say, he said in a low voice as he read that. No matter how bad his body was in cultivation, there was no doubt that his mind was still one of the best out there. With the simultaneous thinking skill and the fact that he now had an extra brain thanks to his human body, he could keep up with, if not exceed, everyone in the room right now. He read for nearly an hour and could swear he could make the brand. He didn't know if it was okay to make one indoor, so he looked to the side and saw that everyone was doing it. Even the ones not practicing were pressured by their surrounding into doing it. Whatever, I will try it too, Ning thought and started to perform the branding technique. He created a layer of mist in front of him, all made from the chi inside his body. The mist soon flattened out and condensed to become a thin circular floating object. However, that wasn't the end of it. That was just the base of the brand, and he needed to add everything on top of it. He tried making the new stuff while keeping the previously made one just as is, but he failed. Sigh, even with multiple brains, I can't keep on all the different parts at once, he thought to himself. At least, it wasn't for nothing. He was slowly getting the hang of it. All right, everyone, please come with me. The examiner came into the room and called everyone out. During the way out, they took back every single one of the books they had handed out. They were brought through the different rooms to the outdoors. The forest was right in front of them. Many of them had taken the test before, so they were used to it. Maybe were even anticipating the next part. Ning was still clueless as to what exactly the exam was. Given the book they gave, he was pretty sure he had a general idea of what it was going to be. Getting brought out only helped to reinforce the idea. The next exam is simple. Use the ascending mist brand we taught you and bring back a tamed beast from the forest. Your ranking will base on the ranking of your new tamed beast regardless of its cultivation. So, we suggest you go for younger, immature beasts, the examiner said. Then he looked towards the sky and said, you have exactly until the sun reaches the zenith to bring back a tamed beast. Any knowledge of cheating will result in immediate disqualification from the exam and barred from every single one coming afterward. Now, leave. The examiner hadn't even finished talking when half the people were already near the gate. Ning too left swiftly. He needed to find monsters to tame. Shouldn't I learn how to make brands properly before I jump into finding the monsters? He thought. He looked around to see if someone was doing so in the forest, but nobody was there. I doubt the returners need to even learn this technique all over again, he thought, and proceeded to try making the brand. The first time, he failed. He had gotten too hasty at making them and ended up not making part of the brand that made it a whole brand. Now he was going to take his time. Once again, chi left his body, turning to the mist that slowly forming a circular shape and condensing to form a brand base. He started taking out more chi and adding to the brand. Beads of sweat were forming on his forehead as he concentrated on the brand before him. Only after 5 minutes of intense concentration did he manage to finally make one. A misty, white brand with a blue halo around it floated in front of Ning as he looked at it in awe. It wasn't all mist, however. Since the mist was made up of chi in the first place, Ning could tell that it had a function without even knowing what it did. So, I'm supposed to put this on a monster that is willing, right? Ning thought. It was time to find one. He started walking deeper into the jungle, but any monster he found was too low on the ranking. *T. They probably took all the good ones in previous exams, he thought. Still, it was a big forest, so he didn't lose hope. He saw a bunch of examinees already putting brands on low-ranked monsters, so he just shook his head. Do they not remember that these ones are bad? He thought. However, he forgot to count on the fact that not all monsters in the ranking could possibly be found in the forest, especially after so many years. He was at a disadvantage due to being new to the city. His info on the city he had bought only gave him information about the city and not the forests or lands around it. The outer parts of the forests inhabited lower cultivation monsters. So, Ning didn't both going into the deep forests where he had met the mantis monsters the other day. Finally, after a bit of walking, he stumbled upon a little rabbit-like monster that had 2 giant whiskers coming out of either side of the rabbit. This was an average-ranking monster as far he could remember. However, he didn't know what this rabbit was, so he directly used the second layer of chi cultivation analysis. Chi condensation first realm. Whisker hair, so that's what it's called. Should I get it? Probably not. They aren't very good in the ranking, he thought. The whisker hare noticed Ning standing there, watching him. So, it felt threatened and decided to attack him. It immediately jumped at him and tried to headbutt his chest. Ning let it do that. He was way too strong to care about a chi condensation first realm monster's physical attack. The hare didn't manage to budge Ning, let alone hurt him. It tried a few more times, but couldn't deal any damage. In the end, it decided to run away instead. Oh, you are leaving now? Let me take you with me just in case I don't find any other, Ning said as he was about to launch forward to grab the hare. Suddenly, a swish sound came from the sky as the hare disappeared from in front of him. Ning could barely see a flicker in front of him when the hare disappeared. Immediately he put forth his hands to stop whatever was moving. Telekinesis. A slick, black figure holding the whisker hare stopped in front of him. Ning was quite surprised to see its aesthetics. So black, he thought. He walked forward while holding the black figure right where it was. He reached near to realize that it was actually a bird. From the looks of it, it looked like an eagle to him. He had tended to many in his past life, so he knew them quite well. But he had never seen one quite as black. In fact, he doubted if he had seen anything more black than this bird in front of him. Not crows, not buffaloes. This was a different kind of black, like the ones that were meant to hide in the night without a single reflection. You are quite high on the ranking, aren't you? I wonder why that was. He tried to remember, but he didn't have any information. He quickly used the second layer of the chi cultivation analysis to check the bird too. Chi condensation second realm. Night snatcher. Night snatcher, huh? Shame, I still can't remember anything about you. System, give me some information of this night snatcher, he ordered. As usual, the system gave him different options for the different levels of knowledge he could buy. Unfortunately, anything above beginners was only a wish for him. He spent 10 million energy on the beginner's night snatcher knowledge and started understanding it. Night catcher was a very strong and gluttonous bird monster that liked to hunt its prey at night. Its dark, non-reflective black feathers made it completely hide in the darkness of the night, and even a cultivator had a hard time finding it. Adding onto that a very swift speed and frightening accuracy, it could snatch up its prey from very far away. Night snatchers with a higher cultivation base were said to be able to turn day into night when they hunt. However, that was just a rumor. Even more frightening rumor was that they had the blood of an ancient god and could evolve into them given sufficient cultivation base and enough resources. However, Ning couldn't see any more information about these things. Ning judged the size of the bird with the information in his mind and realized that it was barely a teenager in bird years. He walked up to the bird and looked at its face and the hare it was holding. The hare was already dead with the sharp talons digging deep into its body. The bird was struggling to move, so it opened its beak and said, "Hungry. Need food. Stuck." What? Did I just, what? Ning was surprised. He stopped talking and listened to the bird once more. It repeated the same things once again. Hungry. Food not. Stuck. Ning was sure he could hear the bird speak now, but why? He was surprised. He didn't have any skills that could let him hear the birds talk. Do I? He wondered and immediately opened the status page. Status name. Ning Ruigong energy, 26 million separated energy. Heat energy. 454,000 sound energy. 98,000 chi energy. 25,448,000. Skills. Simultaneous thinking, intermediate map, omniscient clavis language, candlefire, yin to heat conversion technique, night vision eye, interdimensional storage, stop time. 112 kg, air cutter, telekinesis, yin to sound conversion technique, water filtration, earthly jade cultivation method, sun god's morning cleansing technique, chi cultivation analysis, body cultivation analysis, basic all language, 2x chi acclimation rate. There was nothing like a beast language skill. There was, however, a basic all language skill. Is that what is letting me understand it? He was shocked. He had assumed that the all language meant all human language. However, if it meant any language, then things were different. Damn, the system wasn't lying when it said the all language skill was in discount. Such a broken ability should have cost a lot more than it actually did, he thought. He looked towards the night snatcher and asked, "You want food?" The bird jerked its head to the side and stared dead in his eyes. Me. Food. Hungry. The bird spoke in broken sentences. Ning couldn't tell if that was because of having a basic language skill or because it was actually a monster with limited intelligence and couldn't form a coherent sentence. Ning immediately undid a little of his telekinesis and let the bird slowly fall to the ground along with its dead prey. You can eat it here, he said. The bird seemed to understand what he said and started ripping apart the hair and eating it. Ning sat back and looked at the barely 30 centimeters long bird. Once the eagle finished the hair up until its bone, it stopped and looked at him. Ning felt a little weirded out by the way the bird was looking at him and asked, "Are you still hungry?" The bird made no reaction or movement whatsoever and said as he kept on looking straight at him. Hungry. More food. Need. Sigh, didn't an entire hair fill up your stomach? Is that what that information meant when it said you were gluttonous creatures? Let's see what you guys like. It does say you guys are carnivorous birds but not what you like to eat. Does any meat work? He asked. The bird couldn't comprehend such a line of thought and didn't speak. System, what food do they like exactly? He asked. For a few thousand energy he got an answer. Snakeskins. Holy, that's some taste in food you guys have, he said while feeling disgusted. Damn, where am I supposed to find snakeskins now? Do I waste the final bit of energy I have? He wondered. Whatever, system. Make a kilogram worth of snakeskins, he ordered. Thankfully, that didn't cost a lot. If the snakeskin had energy in it, it might have cost a lot more, but only snakeskins itself, it cost him about 2 million energy. A long strip of snakeskin dropped in front of him that made him feel disgusted, but the bird's eyes seemed to light up when it saw that. I hope it doesn't leave, Ning said as he slowly let go of the telekinesis. He needed to focus all of his attention on making the ascending mist brand. While the bird was eating the snakeskin, he diverted his focus into making the brand. Mist started spilling out of his hands as they gathered in front of him and made a brand. It took him about 9 minutes to make the brand this time. He was a minute faster than before and fortunately, the bird was enjoying the snakeskin very much. Ning couldn't help but pet the eagle and slowly dropped the brand on it, hoping it would accept it. The brand changed colors from blue to bright orange as it fell onto the body of the bird. A sizzling sound escaped from where the band hit the bird. Burn. Pain. Hurt. The bird started speaking. Ning got a little worried it would escape now. He immediately started caressing the bird as he said, "It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. Just bear with it and I will give you more snakeskins to eat. You will get more food," he said. More food? The bird stopped struggling and let the brand do its work. Soon, Ning felt a connection being established between himself and the bird. So, the bird is tamed and controlled by my body and not me. He was surprised to learn that. However, it did make sense since the chi was his body's and thus the brand would belong to it as well. That's a shame. So, if I ever change bodies, then I wouldn't be able to use the bird, huh? He thought. Food? The bird asked. Haha, yeah, Ning said as he made the system made a kilogram of snakeskin once more. Come on, jump on my shoulders, I will feed you, Ning said. However, the bird didn't move. Here, come, Ning said as he patted his own shoulder. The bird flew up and landed on the shoulder on one leg and slowly lowered the other one. Huh? What's wrong? Is your leg hurt? Ning asked. Leg. Hurt. The bird said. Ning picked him up and started checking the talons. The bird was very submissive after being tamed, so he had no worries. Still, he gave it a snakeskin to chew on while he checked. He checked the talons and found nothing wrong. He moved a little up and checked the featherless part of the leg, there was nothing wrong either. He then moved a little up and found some crusted blood on the feathers there. He slowly parts the feathers and found that the bird was still hurt. Was it me? He thought at first. He wondered if a sudden telekinesis stop had done this. But seeing how old the blood looked, that would have been impossible. The blood has fully clotted, so it should be at least a few days old. What happened? He asked. Human. Harm. Ah, Ning realized. Someone found you and tried to tame you, didn't they? Ning asked. Sigh, they must have gotten your legs when they tried to take you down before branding you. You shouldn't be out during the day then. Your kids are supposed to hunt at night, what were you doing hunting during the day? Ning asked. Hungry. Injured. Didn't eat. Ning made sense of the jumbled up words and felt bad about asking the question in the first place. I see. So you couldn't hunt while you were hurt and came out anyway today because you were very hungry, huh? I should have realized that. System. Can you heal what should I call you? Ning thought and couldn't come up with a name. Let's just call you Knight for now. That should work. System, heal Knight's legs, he said. It will cost 4,600,000 energy, are you sure? Yeah, do it. White light shined from the bird's leg and in less than a second, it was healed. No longer feeling any pain from its legs, Knight started to twist and turn its head in confusion and happiness. It didn't understand what had just happened, but it didn't care as it was healed and was happy now. Congratulations. Here, have some food, he said as he gave Knight another snakeskin. Knight ate that piece of meat with great joy. Ning smiled a little as he saw the happiness in Knight's face and said, "Don't worry. You will get loads of these from now on." Knight understood that and cried out in joy. Ning just shook his head and looked to the sky. There were a lot of trees in the forest, but even then they couldn't block the sky and where the sun was. There wasn't much longer before the sun reached the zenith, although it didn't feel like it, he had been here for more than an hour. So, he turned back around and went back to the Mist Origin Sect. About 10 minutes before the test even ended, Ning walked back to the sect's gate outside the forest. There were already many people standing there after finishing their test. Some had beasts with them, some didn't. Huh? Did they fail already? Why didn't they stay back in the forest and try a bit longer? There are still 10 minutes left, he said to himself. He took out a snakeskin from his interdimensional storage and fed it to Knight. He went to a corner of the sect grounds and waited for the test to end. Soon, the remaining 10 minutes passed, and only those who had come by now would be eligible to pass. The examiner from before came to the group of 80-something people and spoke. Congratulations to those who managed to tame a beast for themselves. Hopefully, the beast you tamed is good enough to make it into the sect, he said. I will call out your names. Please enter the room when I do so, the man said and called out the first name. A scrawny-looking man with a serious look walked forward. Wait. Take your beast out of your beast pouch before entering, the man said. The scrawny man just nodded and brought out a small child of a mammoth before walking in. People started talking about how great the beast looked and all. Ning realized that the mammoth-like beast was actually lower ranked than his bird. Soon, more and more people were sent in. On one particular announcement, a man called Yashis was called. When the man walked out of the group of people, Knight jerked up and stared at the man. Man. Bad. Man, it said. Bad man, him. It took a second for Ning to realize what Knight meant. Wait, was he the one who hurt you? He asked. Bad. Man. Hurt. Hungry. That settled it. This Yashis fellow was in fact the one that harmed Knight a week ago. He probably failed last week and is back now to hunt, Ning thought. As Yashis reached the door, he brought out a gorilla monster. It was still a child, but seeing the gorilla made everyone shocked. That's an iron gorilla, right? Someone asked. Yeah, those are so hard to come by. Especially because they stay attached to their parents. And fighting the parents is a bad idea, another person spoke. How do you think he came by a child then? Numerous questions rang out from the people in there. Ning didn't know much about iron gorilla, but he did know about rankings. And iron gorillas were high up in the rankings. He caressed Knight who was resting on his shoulders and said, Don't worry, you are still much better than him. More people were called, and finally, it was Ning's turn. As soon as his name was called out, he started walking towards the gate. Just as he was passing through the gate, the examiner looked at his tamed beast and said, Whoa, in a low voice. Ning felt unusually happy at that moment. Once he walked inside, he saw a single person with 2 doors behind them. The person squinted as soon as Ning arrived and asked, Where is your beast? Ning was a little confused and simply pointed at Knight. Knight had at some point just sat down on his shoulders and snuggled up to a ball, such that it was unrecognizable from an actual black rag he was keeping on his shoulders. Knight, stand up, he said. Suddenly, Knight woke up from its slumber and stared around it. As a night snatcher, a beast that was used to hunting and living in the night, Knight was used to sleeping in the day. The only reason it was even awake during the day for today was cause it was hungry after not having eaten for a long time. The person in front of Alex saw the majestic black eagle unfurling its wings and screamed in surprise, a night snatcher. How did you find it? They asked. I was looking at a hare when he came by and snatched it in front of me, Ning said. That's not what I meant. Night snatchers is incredibly fast and impossible to be stopped unless one is an entire realm above the beast. How did a chi condensation second realm cultivator like you find it? The person asked. Oh, well, that's a secret, Ning said. Anyway, do I pass or not? He asked. Oh, wait. The person took out a strange metallic plate and threw it on the ground and asked, Step on it. Ning complied and stepped on the metallic plate without hesitation. At first, he couldn't figure out what was going on, but eventually, he did. He saw it happen from the side of his right temple. Night was standing right there and a blue glow was coming out of it before entering his own body. What the hell is that? He wondered. Ning looked closely and realized that the blue glow was coming out of the exact same spot where he had put the brand on. Alright. I have confirmed that you really did tame the beast and you did it today. Congratulations, you have passed the test. With a beast like Night Snatcher, you pass automatically. Please walk into the room on the left, the person said. Ning thanked the person and told Night to go back to sleep. He then walked out of the left door and into a hallway that led to another room out back. Ning entered the room and saw that there were already 4 people in there. According to the examiner, 20 people were supposed to be selected today, and of those, it seemed 5 were guaranteed now. There were 2 young men and 2 young women. Both the women seemed to have a cold face, while one of the men was in the back staying alone by himself. The last guy was trying to strike up a conversation with the ladies, who clearly didn't want to talk to them. Ning looked at him and sighed. Of course, it had to be this guy. So, since when did you learn beast taming? I have been learning it since I was 3 years old. My father got me a crimson hamster when I was 3, and I played with it throughout my childhood. Oh, you know who my father is? He is the head of the Flying Beast Company. If you guys ever need to go somewhere, just let me know. I can get you free rides around these islands. We actually get monsters from the forest. Most people don't know this, but there are quite a lot of flying beasts in the forest. Speaking of which, how was your time in the forest today? I myself had a very nice time. You know, I caught an iron gorilla, right? It was kinda hard to get it, I'm not gonna lie. If my father's people hadn't told me there were some in a certain area, then I would have never known about them. Speaking of which, I was actually with my father's people looking for some more beasts for his company. We found quite a few beasts. He was using bows and arrows, haha. We didn't want to kill them though. Just injure them enough to make them stop moving and take them back with us. We heal them afterward and tame them. Man, there was this really fast bird that I wanted to catch. I only threw an arrow at it. I think I grazed it, but it got away afterward. Damn, it was so good. I wish I knew what bird it was. Ning felt like his ear would fall off from listening to the constant blabber from the fellow named Yashis. He wasn't even the main recipient of the talk, however. The true people being tortured right now were the 2 girls that wanted absolutely nothing to do with the guy, but he just wouldn't get a clue. At some point, one of the 2 girls turned to him, looked at him straight in the eye, and said, "I have a boyfriend." Ning snickered a little when he heard that. The girl was so fed up with him that she used the #1 most effective phrase to get a boy to leave her. Yashis turned to look at Ning with hateful eyes when he heard the snickering and then turned back to talk with the other girl. He was only talking for another minute when the girl turned to him and said, "I have a boyfriend too." Peeved. Ning couldn't hold in his laugh this time. Ha ha ha, he laughed out loud. Yashis got ticked off. "What are you laughing at?" he said as he came towards Ning. Ning couldn't stop laughing even as the man he was laughing at came right next to him and stared at him. Ning still couldn't stop laughing and just laughed out louder. Yashis was about to say something when the examiner came in with 15 different people. "Alright. You 20 people are the ones that have passed the exam. Go stand around and I will tell you a little more about the sect." The 15 people that were brought by the examiner mingled with the rest of the 5 people. Yashis backed off to another spot and slowly made his way to another female that had just come in. Mist Origin Sect is the largest sect in the Starsight City. It is the strongest beast-taming sect in the Scattered Isles and is one of the top 10 sects in the Scattered Isles. You will find stronger sects only on the main continent. Everything in the sect costs you gold coins. Even remaining on the sect could cost you gold coins. So make sure to go get or earn some from time to time. You will be free to use whatever facility there is in the sect as long as you have enough gold coins for it. Every month, there will be a competition between your beasts that will decide whether you get to stay on the sect or not. However, you don't have to worry about that, since you know, coins. You will all start as outer sect disciples that will have to share houses with the other disciples. You will be staying 5 people in one house. Inner sect disciples are 2 people in a house, and core disciples all have their own house for them, the examiner said. However, as a disciple of the sect, you must take part in one of the 3 different sections: beast care, beast feeding, and beast training. Disciples in beast care will take care of cleaning and making sure the beasts in the sect remain healthy. Disciples in beast feeding will have to feed the beasts every day, both food and water. Disciple in beast training will have to train the beasts to obey the new disciples when they come to tame them. This one is the hardest, so not everyone can choose to be in this and will have to take a separate exam for this. Any questions? He asked. One of the new disciples raised their hands and asked, how do we promote from outer sect to inner sect? Ah, good question. Like I said, every month, there is a sect-wide competition where your beasts fight. If you place in the lower half of the ranking there, you will have to pay to stay. However, on the upper half, more accurately the top 16, if you manage to land there, you will be promoted as long as you are Chi Condensation 4th Realm and below 25 years of age. You will find out the requirements for core disciple very soon. Now, go in. These disciples will help make you something for your identity and show you your new place to stay, he said. Soon the disciples started walking away, and Ning walked along with them. He was kinda sad that he would have to share the place with 4 other people but didn't care all that much about it. Soon he was taken out of the hall and into the real grounds of the sect. Whoa, he said as he looked at the place. The place was beyond big. There was a small slope here, and most of the buildings were there. On the lower slope, there were the sect buildings most people visited. As they went up, there were the houses for the outer sect, inner sect, and core disciples, and at the very top of the large hill was where the elders stayed. Ning, along with the rest, were taken to a building at the foot of the slope where he got an identification card. Apparently, he could now go in and out of the city without paying the fee at the gate. Along with that, he got a rulebook and a pouch. Is this a storage bag? He wondered. He had heard about these things. They could store lots of items in a very small space, similar to his interdimensional storage. He had seen them in use too but never seen the real thing itself. No, this is a beast pouch. Ning wasn't expecting that. A beast pouch? He tried to remember if he knew anything about it, but all that he knew about it was that it was used to store one's beasts. Can you tell me more about it? He asked the system. Please use the shop. He sighed at the expected response. He didn't have much energy, so he instead opened the rulebook. Thankfully, it had a section about beast pouches. A beast pouch that could store up to 2 tamed beasts of less than 200 kilograms in total was given on entry to the sect. That's not that bad. Even my interdimensional storage has around 110 kilograms of total weight. Although, I doubt I will need 200 kilograms worth of space for my knight. He barely weighs anything. I will just store him in my own storage, he thought, and tried to store knight away. However, no matter how much he tried, he couldn't pull knight in. Why can't I pull him in? He wondered. Anything that is living cannot be pulled into your interdimensional storage. Oh, that's right. I forgot about it. I got used to the idea of storing my body that I forgot that was even a thing. So, I guess I really have to use the beast pouch, huh? He asked. You can buy your own beast space. I can. But I already have a beast pouch, so what's the point? He asked. Beast pouch can only store beasts with no access to anything else. Beast space nurtures all the beasts in it, giving them access to the chi outside, and also increases their growth and heals them if required. Oh, that sounds good. How much does it cost? Ning asked. You can buy a single beast space for 20 million points that have 5 kilograms of available storage weight. You can increase the storage weight by 1 kilogram per million energy. That is surprisingly cheap, isn't it? But what do you mean by a single beast space? Are there multiple? He asked. You have to buy a single space for each of your different beasts so that they can be kept separate. I see. It's cheaper than my interdimensional storage though. Although that just might be because I bought the time-stopped version. Keep it on the top of my auto-buy list. I will buy it later on. For now, you can sleep in the beast pouch, Knight, he said as he sent Knight into his beast pouch. Oi idiot, why are you talking to yourself? Ning heard someone say and turned around. It was the Yashis guy. It seemed he was still angry about the fact that he was humiliated before. Everyone, look at this idiot. He does nothing but talks to himself, ha ha ha, Yashis started saying out loud. By now, only the male group were left as they were being taken to their side of the outer sect residence. Did he catch me speaking with the system? I should be more careful about it, Ning thought. What do you want? He asked Yashis. Haha, tell me, are you an idiot? Why were you talking all by yourself? You must have a problem in your head, he said. Oh, Ning said. He was a little ticked off and wanted to beat this guy up right now, but he controlled himself. Then, he asked him back, what don't you tell me first, then? What? Tell you about what? Yashis asked confused. Oh, Tell me why you were talking all by yourself in the hall earlier? Ning asked. What? I wasn't talking by myself. I was talking with the girls earlier, he said. Were you? I didn't see any girls talking back to you though. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Ning asked. Yashis started to get angry. He was about to say something to protect his image, when Ning spoke first and said, Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was remembering wrong. You were talking with the girls. I even remember what they said back. Yashis's face drained color as he could hear what Ning was going to say before he even said it. Immediately, he attacked Ning, trying to stop him from saying anything. Ning, however, wasn't fazed by this. He simply sidestepped the attack and hit his leg to trip him to the ground. Yeah, they said that they already had boyfriends and didn't want to talk to you. What? Did they say that? Haha. The other people in the group started laughing after listening to this. Yashis started to get back up to attack Ning once more when the person in charge of their group intervened. If you two make any more ruckus, then I will make the elder expel you both, he said. Haha, sorry about that brother, Ning said. Yashis too gritted his teeth as he apologized. Ning couldn't imagine just how much he was hated by Yashis. Soon, they reached the houses they were staying at. Ning was grouped together with 4 other disciples and made to stay in a single home. Thankfully, he didn't have to share rooms like back in the orphanage, so he was happy about that at least. He went to his room and started learning the rulebook. He needed to gather as much energy as he could in the next few days to buy all the different things. I need to up my cap next. Sigh, it's 10 billion, however. Do I just stop existing for a while in the sect to collect that amount? He wondered. But he wasn't going to do that. That would mean he couldn't cultivate anymore. Instead, he planned to increase his cultivation base a lot, while gathering his energy for doubling the cap. I can't cultivate forever either now. I will need to stop and use the yin to heat conversion technique, and the yin to sound conversion technique. 10 billion on both of those. Sigh, that is going to take forever. It was 250 days for either of the energy to reach the required 10 billion energy. If he wanted to double it twice, that was nearly a year of continuous energy gathering without spending it anywhere. That is going to be impossible. Even if I don't use a lot of energy, I am still going to be stuck collecting energy for around a year straight. Oh God. I wish the kinetic energy is just around the corner. Early in the morning, before the sun had even risen up, Ning stopped cultivating and walked out of his room. He had already finished collecting sound energy for the day. His mind was flaring with pain as he had spent most of the night simultaneously looking at his own information with the chi cultivation analysis. Even when used on oneself, it required a bit of mental strength, and keeping it up overnight made his mind hurt a lot. He didn't do it for nothing, however. He was using up his mental strength to gain it back with a little more added onto it. It hurt him very much to do so, but the fact that it made his mind stronger was enough reason for him to continue it. Dawn had arrived, but the sun was still down. So he made his way to the open training ground, where a few different disciples were already training their morning arts or practicing different techniques. Ning started dancing the same as he did every time he practiced the sun god's morning cleansing technique. Within moments, Qi started gathering around him and entered his body as it cleaned both yang and yin energy that was inside him. So, when the sun did rise above the horizon, the first light of the day that carried the purest of yang cleansed his body from the inside and made it just that much stronger. Once he was done, he checked his strength using the body cultivation analysis. Similar to chi cultivation analysis, body cultivation analysis also used up the mental strength to check the information. However, unlike chi cultivation analysis, body cultivation analysis didn't require a lot of mental strength, and there wasn't more than one layer of information to check, so it was fine. The only time it used up a lot of mental strength was when the body cultivator was really strong. Unlike chi cultivation, body cultivation didn't have fancy names. It only had a single number to represent how strong a person was. It started at level 1 and went on forever. However, most people instead used the chi cultivation realms as a metric for body cultivation as well. Each set of numbers were given an equivalent realm name to make it easier to understand. Levels 1 to 9 were equivalent to the first 9 realms of the chi condensation realm. Level 10 to 18 was the foundation establishment realm, and so on. Each new level in body cultivation required either a lot of time or a lot of precious materials to make one's body stronger. Ning looked at his level and sighed. It was at level 5. Meaning, his body was as strong as people with chi condensation 5th realm. However, now that he was here, it was taking longer to go up. Soon, he would have to either abandon the technique or improve it. Ning didn't want to do either. Not until he was starting to double the cap. Once he was done with body cultivation, he brought out Night to let him fly around a bit, but it seemed he didn't want to as it was morning already. Does he really just want to move around at night? He wondered. He went back to his room to cultivate. He could feel that the breakthrough was right around the corner. However, after a few hours, he had to leave the room and go to participate in one of the 3 different sections of beast taming. From his perspective, beast care would take a lot of time. Beast training would require him to be there a lot, and it would also require him to take an exam for it. So, the easiest thing to do was beast feeding. As long as you fed the beasts once a day, you were exempt from doing anything for the rest of the day. That's a perfect job for me. Oh, I wish there aren't a lot of people looking to vie for this job, he hoped. There weren't. His hope came true. Ning was standing in the place where you registered yourself for feeding the beasts. In front of him were 5 new disciples of the 20 that had joined. Aside from that, there were maybe 5 other people here. In a sect that took in 20 disciples every month, this was a very low amount. Even the training ground had 5 times more people. What is going on? He wondered. Along with the other 5, he went to register his name. There was a girl at the register who was lazily slouching on the desk like she didn't have any sleep last night. Welcome to the beast feeding section of the Mist Origin Sect. What can I do for you? She said in an enthusiastic, monotone voice. We came to register ourselves in this section, one of the new men said. The girl's eyes turned bright as she looked at the 6 people in front of her, but they drooped her head as she shook it. Hey, here I was excited someone finally came to join again. Turns out it's just new disciples who want to take the easy way out. Go back, kids. This task is not as easy as you think it is, the girl said and went back to slouching. What? The disciples were confused. What, you didn't consult with the other disciples before coming here, did you? So you don't know how dangerous this task really is. Compared to beast care and beast training where they deal with fully fed, satiated beasts, we have to feed the hungry beasts that might end up killing us and eating us instead. Oi, Rikiel, come here, she shouted to the side. A dark-skinned man came rushing towards her. What is it, sister? He asked. These kids are here to register for us without learning about us. Teach them the lesson, she said. Oh, you guys nearly made a big mistake. Look, he said as he pulled up his right robe and half of his hand was missing. It was eaten by herbivore while I was feeding it foliage. A herbivore. If you guys don't want to die, you better leave. As soon as the disciples learned about the hand, they started making excuses and left the place. Only Ning was left there standing. He didn't fear losing his arm, so he was going to do this, which didn't take a lot of time. Other ones were not fit for him. Are you still going to join even after learning all of this? The girl asked. Yes, please, Ning said. Very well. Give me your identification, I will register you, the girl said with a weird look in her eyes. She quickly registered him and said with a sly smile, Congratulations. You just landed the easiest job in the sect. Easiest? What? Ning was confused. How is such a dangerous task be easy? Sister, Ning asked. The name is Soria. Rikiel here will tell you the rest, go with him, Soria said. Okay. Ning said and started following Rikiel. Haha, good job on not running away, brother. You got one of the easiest jobs in the sect, Rikiel said. What do you mean by easy? Wasn't it supposed to be very hard? Were you lying? Ning asked. Hee, of course, brother. You are new here, right? Rikiel asked. Yes, Ning said. Then you might not know this, but every month the sect gives each of the sections a little budget to get their job done. Ours is the lowest of the 3. So, ever since a few years ago, Sister Soria took over the place and started scaring away any newcomers from joining the place. After that, each member of the beast feeding group got a little more pay. While our budget was low, with very few people to work with, we actually get more money than most high-level seniors here. Haha, you really did a good job not running away, Rikiel said. Wait, so it's not really dangerous? Then what happened to your arm? Ning asked. This, Rikiel said as he showed his stump once more and said, Haha, I was born with this. Sister Soria uses it to scare away the disciples now, Rikiel said. So, the talk about the beasts being dangerous while hungry was also a lie then? Ning asked. Kinda. They are more agitated than usual when they are hungry, but that doesn't mean they will outright attack us. They're usually very docile even when they're hungry. The beast care and beast training sections do a very good job after all, Rikiel said. Ning was shocked at what sort of a scam was being run here. What is the budget we get for the beast feeding section? He asked. Around 1,200 coins a month. After spending around 500 coins on the food for the beasts, the people here are usually left with 120 gold coins. Well, 100 now that you've joined us too, Rikiel joined. Nope, not a scam. It's a genuine business I am part of now. Ning changed his views the moment he heard the money he would earn in a month. That was around 500 million energy worth of gold right there, and he really didn't want to waste the energy on anything he didn't want. So, when do I start working? Ning asked. Let's see. Since we only have 6 people who actually do the feeding and Sister Soria who stays outside to fool the other people, some of us will have to repeat days. Why don't you come in 5 days? You will work the 5th and 6th day after that. Although I say you will work 2 days, it's more like you have to be here early in the morning at 7 a.m., during the day at 2 p.m., and at night around 8 p.m. It takes around an hour to feed the entire group of beasts, so as long as you take 3 hours out of the 2 days each, you will be done, Rikiel said. Wait, so I don't have any task right now? Ning asked in surprise. Nope. See you in 5 days. Make sure you remember to come, however. If you miss even a single feeding time, we will deduct 10 coins from that, Rikiel said. Sure, I won't forget, Ning said and left the place. He said farewell to the Sister Soria at the front desk and went back to his room in the outer sect. The next 4 days were the same. Every night, he would cultivate his chi and get closer to a breakthrough. At the same time, he would also use up his mental strength to make it stronger. Night would be out in the open during the night, free to do whatever it wanted. Ning usually let it out of the window after making sure to tell it to do nothing inside the sect itself. Night would go to the forest at night to hunt food for itself. Ever since Ning stopped making snakeskin using his energy, he needed to give Night some other food from the sect. Unfortunately, he was broke right now. Fortunately, Night could feed himself. With the amazing speed Night flew around in, he wasn't worried about anyone noticing him flying around. In the morning, he would go perform Sun God's morning cleansing technique to further strengthen himself. However, this was going very slowly and he would soon need to improve upon it. After the cap doubles, I will get it all, Ning thought. Once again, he had to let go of something so that he could focus on the cap. After that he would go back to his room and cultivate once again. 4 days had gone by and this was the 5th day. Ever since last night, he had stopped feeling the chi around him when he cultivated. That meant that breakthrough was around the corner. He forced his body to cultivate, despite it being unable to gather chi anymore. And in the end, with a large thump inside of him, he felt that he had broken through. Finally, after over 164 years, he had reached chi condensation 3rd realm. Ning could feel the power coursing through his body as he reached chi condensation 3rd realm. It was just a cultivation realm's worth of difference, but the difference was massive. If as a chi condensation 2nd realm cultivator, he could handle another chi condensation 2nd realm cultivator, as a chi condensation 3rd realm cultivator, he could handle 5 of chi condensation 2nd realm cultivators. That was how much the strength his body had gone up by. Unfortunately, it had zero effect on his physical body itself and could only make his body stronger by putting chi into it. It was early morning, so he left his room and went to the training ground to cultivate his body. Once he was done with the body, he trained his spear and claw technique a bit. The movement technique was a little too embarrassing to try in public. I look like a frog jumping with both my feet at once, he thought. Once he was done, he didn't return to his room right away, and instead went to the beast's ground. The beasts were all kept at the same place and the group would circulate throughout the day. Ning went to the place and met Rikiel, who was there before him. Oh, hello brother. I was worried you were going to forget your tasks, Rikiel said. Oh, good morning. I am not late, am I? Ning asked. Oh no, I came early so that I can teach you the ropes around here. This is your first time after all, Rikiel said. He took Ning inside the beast grounds and showed the different beasts that were being kept in their own different areas. This reminds me of a zoo. One that I will have to work in again, Ning thought. Alright, we start here, with the birds. These birds only eat different seeds, these ones need meat, and these ones eat whatever they can get. We usually give them the leftover food as an extra cause they will eat it up. Rikiel started talking as he showed the different birds in the place all separated by big cages. The scary ones were kept in cages of their own. Thankfully, most of them were just infants or young birds so they didn't have to worry about the birds being very strong. Alright. Try feeding them, Rikil said as he took out a bucket of grains from his storage bag and handed it to Ning. Okay. Ning said and took the bucket. He looked for an opening to go in and put the grains of some feeding place, but he couldn't see any place open to enter right now. The only door to the enclosure was locked with a really big padlock. So, he took out a handful of seeds and tried to put his hands through the enclosure to feed it little by little. Pat suddenly, Rikil hit his hand. Ning reflexively brought back his arms and asked, "What's wrong? What are you trying to do? Feed them little by little. You want to stay here forever?" Rikil asked. Then, is there an opening I can go in from? The only door has a padlock in it, Ning said. No, you simply just throw the grains in, Rikil said. Sorry, what? Throw the grains in. Ning was shocked. But won't that cause a mess in there? The place would be filled with feathers and defecations. We can't throw the food anywhere we want. Don't worry about that. The place is tidy clean. The beast care people are no slouchers. They clean all the dirt and trash from the enclosure, including the birds' feathers and defecations. So, Rikil said as he took the bucket from Ning's hands and hurled the contents inside the enclosure, scattering it everywhere. We just do that, he finished his sentence. At the same time, the birds flew from where they were perched and came down to eat all the grains in the ground. Come, they will finish eating that soon. We have a lot more work to do, Rikil said as he brought him along. It was the same for the carnivorous birds as well. The only difference was, instead of throwing all the meats at once, they were spread around equally so that not one beast could eat it all. As for the omnivorous, they got some grains this time, along with a bunch of food that was left over from yesterday in the sect. Ning hadn't been to the place where they ate yet, but he knew about it. I will go try the food there once I have some money, he thought. The rest of the places were the same. Most beasts were separated by food, species, ranking, and cultivation base. If they were deemed too dangerous to be around other beasts, then they were kept in their own single enclosure. Ning went around with Rikil, totally dumbfounded at how easy it was to feed the different beasts. Only in 1 or 2 places did he have to actually stop for more than a minute to feed the beasts inside. Otherwise, it was just go to the place, take out the food, throw in the food and leave. If he were to do this when he was working in the zoo, he would be fired on the very first day. Is this the way everyone before you did as well? Ning asked Rikil. Yeah, it was always this easy. That was why so many people came to join us. If not for Sister Soria scaring them away as time went on, we would have way more people working here. That would have been very bad for us, Rikil said. In about 40 to 45 minutes, they were done feeding the beasts. Ning was surprised at how easy and fast it was. Damn, getting 100 coins for doing this 6 times a week is a blessing, he thought. Alright, come to the hall today around 2 and I will give you the food to feed for the rest of the 2 days, Rikil said and left Ning to go do his own thing. At 2 a.m., Ning reached the beast feeding hall and met Soria. Hello Sister Soria, he said as he walked inside. Oh, is it your turn today? She asked. Yeah, he said. Weird, I don't remember seeing you here this morning, she said. Oh, Brother Rikil told me to meet him directly at the beast grounds, so I didn't come here. Now I need food to go feed the beasts, so I'm here, he said. Oh, I see. Go find him then, he should be inside, Soria said. Ning nodded and went in to find Rikil. Brother Rikil, I'm here, he said as he found him. Rikil was in his own thoughts about something when he heard his name being called. Huh? Oh, Brother Ning, you're here. Is it time already? Rikil asked. Ah yes, so I came to get the food for the beasts, Ning said. Here you go, Rikil said as he handed Ning a small bag. A beast pouch? No, a storage bag, Ning thought in shock. This was the first time he was seeing one. How much can this bag hold? He asked. About 500 kilograms, Rikil said. I see, Ning said. How much is that in terms of my energy? 250 million. That's not as much as I thought it would be, Ning said. He left the beast feeding hall and went to the beast grounds. The same as he did today morning, he fed the beasts in enclosures. It didn't even take him longer than 30 minutes to finish feeding all the beasts. Without Rikil to explain to him about everything, the process was cut down by at least a third of the time. Once he was done, he went back to his room and cultivated once more. During the evening, he once again went to feed the beasts before returning back. The next day too, he did the same thing. Morning, noon, and evening, he fed the beasts all 3 times. Alright, Brother Ning, You don't have to do any work for at least 10 more days, Rikil said. 10 days? I was expecting to do this twice a week. I'm surprised it's 10 long days, Ning said. Haha, we have 6 people working, so we changed it to 2 days per person. It rotates every 12 days. Here you go, 30 coins, Rikil said as he handed Ning 30 coins. Why so early? Ning asked. Oh, you need to only do this for 2 more times, so you already get a third of your pay now. You probably need it too, Rikil said. Yes, I do. But, what if I don't come the other 2 times, isn't my pay supposed to go down by 10 coins per feeding time I miss? He asked. Oh, I forgot to mention. If you lose more than what you were to be paid, you don't get to work here anymore. Now, you wouldn't do anything as stupid, would you? Rikil asked with a knowing smile. Ning returned back to his room and started to think, do I really just stay in my room for the next 10 days? He thought. Cultivating was fine, but he was on the first phase of it once more, so it would take a while for him to even reach a time for a breakthrough. Wait for a second, he thought as he hurriedly took out the rulebook from his storage and turned to a certain page. Sect-wide Beast Tournament takes place every month at the end of the month. He hurriedly counted the days and thought, in 4 days. He finally saw some hope of not being bored the next 4 days. It's a beast tournament, so I need to train night, he thought. I should go visit the techniques hall, he thought. Early next morning, Ning woke up from his cultivation and gathered heat energy once more. Right now he had about 250 million. That was far from enough. Night had returned by then, so after finishing his body cultivation and training, he went to the technique halls. The techniques hall, along with all the other halls, were on the base of the hill, so it didn't take him long to go there. He was allowed entry by just showing his identification card. However, being an outer sect disciple, he could only stay in the hall for 2 hours. I wonder how long the inner sect and core disciples get, he thought. The hall was separated into 2 separate sections. One was for beast-related techniques, the other was for human-related techniques. The claw technique, along with my cultivation base, is enough for me right now. Besides, the tournament only uses beasts, so I should find some techniques for night. Hopefully, he can learn it in 4 days, Ning thought. He went into the bird section of the beast techniques and started to look for anything that resembled a good technique. Beaks, feathers, wings, talons, eyes, tails. Numerous techniques, even for just birds, laid around the room in the hall. Ning looked through the wings and talons section. The knight was pretty good at flying and had a great vision since he was a predator. Also, his beak was bent at the front like all eagles and his feathers weren't really meant for attacking, so Ning didn't see the point of getting them into the other 2. Soon, he found 2 techniques that he really liked and could afford. The first one was called Blinding Gusts. It made the wings flap very fast, producing large amounts of winds with their chi, that pricked the enemy's eyes, blinding them temporarily in the process. The next one was called the Mootly Scratch Technique. It made the birds able to scratch the enemies with their talons multiple times in a single scratch. One scratch would be done by them, while the others would be done by the chi released while using the technique. Together, they cost Ning around 16 gold coins, which was quite a lot, but he thought it was worth it. It was the day of the tournament. Ning made his way to the battle arena of the sect where all the people were gathered to make their beast fight. During the last 4 days, Ning had been continuously training night in the 2 techniques. By now, he was quite proficient at using the multi-scratch technique but was a little behind on learning the Blinding Gusts technique properly. Still, he was good enough that Ning didn't think he would need to learn it any further. Also, after Ning's consistent effort, he had managed to increase Ning's cultivation realm by 1. He was now in 3rd realm of chi condensation. This sect-wide competition was for outer sect disciples only, so Ning couldn't see many if any inner sect disciples. As for core disciples, he hadn't seen a single once since he had joined the sect, aside from the senior sister Soria. Do I leave the sect once I reach the next 2 double caps amount? He wondered. The reason he joined the sect in the first place was partly his curiosity about what sects were like and his need to find a place where he could cultivate without worry. Since he didn't want to be bald and didn't like the vibes of the other sect at all, he had come here. He quite liked it for now and didn't have any complaints. Although, it's supposed to be a school, right? What sort of school lets a student learn on their own? The disciples require a knowledgeable teacher to guide them, he thought. He registered his name and was made to register both of his beasts. When he told them he only had 1, they looked at him quite weird. Sh*t, should I have gotten another one too? He thought. After a few minutes, the tournament started. There were apparently around 350 outer sect disciples, so they started to have multiple battles at once. Ah, the elders stay as referee, huh? He thought. He was happy that Knight wouldn't get severely hurt now. He knew Knight wasn't the strongest of the bunch, and given that he had to fight during the day, his skills wouldn't be shown to the fullest. Still, he hoped to make the top half so he wouldn't have to pay anything. Beasts were fighting everywhere in the battle arena. Some were intense, some were funny, some were boring, some were hard to look at. Soon, Ning's turn came as well. He was sent to the arena with another disciple. He had never seen the disciple before, but he wouldn't go easy on him. Both of their beasts came out of the beast pouch at the same time. Ning brought out Knight, while the other guy brought out a very regular-looking wolf. However, Ning knew that this wolf was mid to high in terms of rankings in the Mist Origin Sect's beast data. That meant it was way below Knight's level. Ning quickly checked the wolf's cultivation and nearly laughed when he saw that it was in the first chi condensation realm. It was too weak. Start! The elder screamed and both the beasts started fighting at once. Without even waiting for anything, Knight, under Ning's order, flew at a slow speed and knocked the wolf with its non-sharp side of the talon. While it was slow, the speed was very fast for the wolf to dodge, and instead, it was hurled out of the arena. Ning thought that the fight was anticlimactic and walked down the arena with Knight perched on his shoulders. He watched the other fight for a few minutes, and it was time for him to fight again. He walked up the arena once more and got ready for fighting. This time their opponent was a girl with a second chi condensation realm bird. Everyone expected the fight to last a little more than a little, but alas, that was exactly what happened. Within a single scratch from Knight, not even a technique, the bird was hurt and it flew back to the owner. Once more, it was an anticlimactic fight. Ning waited for a little longer and his turn came once more. He was starting to get bored now. He had expected to fight great battles with his beast and instead it was just a sleep fest. Finally, when he walked up the arena, he saw his opponent and was quite surprised. A demon caterpillar, he thought. He knew the name of the beast at least, and also knew it was at a respectable ranking. I wonder why that is. I should read the other books, he thought. Soon the battle started and as usual, Knight flew in to scratch the caterpillar. But suddenly, the caterpillar threw out a bunch of webs that created a very hard place for Knight to maneuver in. Ning was a little surprised, but he didn't get caught off guard. Use blinding gust, he said while pointing at the caterpillar. He felt like a P*K* on a trainer right now. The gusts had tiny sharp chi in them that did nothing to the webs. However, upon the frail demon caterpillar, it was making numerous tiny cuts all over its body, including its eyes. Suddenly, it couldn't see anymore. The girl started calling for the caterpillar to perform different techniques, but in the end, it was blinded, so it easily lost to Knight once more. By this point, Ning was surprised if he was even going to be stopped at all. He waited for his turn to come P once more, but it didn't. Instead, they skipped his turn to get a number that was the multiple of 2. He was now suddenly in top 32. What the hell? He thought. It was now a 1v1 that the entire audience would watch one at a time. The competition started once more and people started to fight. Soon, it was time for him to fight once more. When he walked up and saw his enemy on the other side of the stage, he was quite surprised. Ah, I see. We will finally get to take revenge for you, Knight, Ning said. As if he had a fate attached to the guy, his opponent was Yashis. This guy is the one that attacked Knight, right? It will be fun to see him get defeated by the same Knight, Ning thought. You? Yashis said as he remembered who the person in front of him was. I will get you for that time, he said and brought out his monster. Ning was getting ready to see the iron gorilla, but instead what came out was a large green mantis. What? These guys again? Where is the gorilla? Ning said in surprise. He had forgotten that outer sect disciples could register up to 2 beasts in the competition and switch between them. Now, he knew it. That mantis's ranking is quite high, isn't it? He was surprised to remember that the monster he had fought wasn't a weak one. He quickly checked its cultivation and names. Green Reaper Mantis 3rd Chi Condensation Realm, *T. That's actually quite high. It's the same as Knight, and they are fast too. Ning was starting to worry a little now. Hopefully, the elders will come to stop if it gets too bad. Fight. The mantis immediately rushed forward with its scythe-like arms and slashed towards Knight. Knight, however, flew up and dodged it. He then rushed in at an incredible speed to scratch at the mantis, but the mantis wasn't slow either. It dodged back and slashed at Knight. Airblade! Yashis screamed from the side. Suddenly, the mantis crossed both of its scythe-like arms and swiped the air at an incredible speed. Suddenly, air in front of the mantis flew out towards Knight. It was sharp enough to hurt Knight. Oh no, that's like my air cutter, Ning realized and immediately ordered Knight to fly far away. With incredible speed, Knight flew out of the direction and range of the flying airblade and missed it completely. Blinding gusts. Air twister. Two commands were sent out at the same time. Knight started sending gusts of prickly air towards the mantis in hope of blinding it, and the mantis started spinning rapidly in hopes of creating a small tornado. Due to the tornado, the gusts of air never made its way to the mantis, while Knight was too good at flying to be affected by such little winds. They were at a standstill now. Ning started to worry if he could ever even harm the mantis. Knight will have to get close, he thought. Ning didn't really know how Knight fought, to be honest, and was going only by what Knight's skills were. He hunts on his own every night, should I, he wondered. Backstab. Yashis screamed. Suddenly, the mantis rushed towards Ning. What? Ning got surprised and was ready to defend himself, when suddenly the mantis changed direction and jumped up, towards Knight. It was really going to stab Knight on the back. Ning got scared and was ready to say something when Knight flew out of the place at incredible speed on its own. Oh, thank God. Of course, it knows how to fight on its own. Knight, fight by yourself, Ning finally said without hesitation. As if he was finally given free rein to do whatever he wanted to, Knight immediately increased its speed and flew around the arena until it was nothing but a black blur in the sky. I know you. You are that bird from last time, Yashis said as he finally remembered the black blur. Knight suddenly changed direction and flew towards the mantis. Ning thought he saw something. As if an afterimage left behind by the incredible speed, it looked like there was a trail of blackness behind Knight. Ting, a metallic sound rang as Knight's talon was stopped by the elder's sword. Fight over, you win? The elder pointed at Ning and said. Wah. Ning didn't even see when the elder had moved. Knight alone was already fast enough for him to keep a track of, but now the elder was basically teleporting too. Holy sh*t, just how strong can cultivators get? He wondered. Come back, Knight, he said. Knight came flying back to him and started complaining. Bad man, foot, pain, again. Ning said as he checked Knight's foot and realized the skin had split open from the impact against the elder. Just how fast was he? Ning wondered. Sigh, I don't have energy to waste, buddy. We will have to heal you the old-fashioned way. I could go to the beast care guys, but I actually want to visit the city again. Maybe go to those Buddhist healers, he said. He was already in the top 16 now. If his cultivation base was at the 4th chi condensation realm, he could have become an inner sect disciple. However, he wasn't at that level yet, and seeing as there was no prize for the participants aside from the top 3, he decided to quit the tournament. He let the elders know about that and left the arena site. In fact, he left the sect itself. Around a few minutes later, he arrived at the gate of the city. Using his identification from Mist Origin Sect, he walked in without paying anything. He walked the streets of the familiar city, one which he knew like the back of his hand. Soon he was in the city center, where he found the Physicians' Guild. The different guilds were around each other and were quite close to the Pure Cleansing Sect. He saw the Beast Tamers Guild, but he still walked into the Physicians' Guild since he needed a healer first. He walked up to the reception where a young man with a bald head was patiently waiting for people. Hello, do you guys help wounded beasts as well? He asked. Of course, dear customer. We help any and all that requires help, the receptionist spoke. Oh, he said and quickly called out Knight from the beast pouch he was stored in. His leg has been injured, can you heal him? He asked. Of course, let me call someone to take you inside, the bald guy said, and so Ning waited. After waiting for 5 minutes, finally, a girl walked out from inside. Ah, here she is. She will take you in, dear customer, the receptionist said. The girl looked at Ning with surprise and said, You, what are you doing here? Oh, it's you. Sister Michaela. Good morning. My night snatcher here needs some treatment, so I came here, he said. The girl was the granddaughter of Kazir Brouch, named Michaela Brouch. Is that so? She said with a cold face and looked towards the bird. After confirming that he was telling the truth, she told him to follow her and walked back inside the building. After a long corridor with many rooms to the side, he finally reached one of the rooms where a middle-aged gentleman was staying in. Master, we have a customer, she said as she walked in. Oh, the man said as he looked towards the door. He saw Ning standing there and asked, "Dear customer, are you injured?" Ning looked back at the bald middle-aged man and told him that it was his beast that needed the help and not him. After learning about it, he asked to see the night snatcher and carefully examined the bird. After a while, he reached into his storage bag and took out a bunch of ingredients. "Take out a clean slab," he said to Michaela. "Yes, master," she said and walked towards the drawers on the side of the room and took out a stone slab with a smaller stone from inside. She handed it to the man and he started crushing the different ingredients in it. He would measure each ingredient before putting it in and use only the required amount. In the end, after he crushed all the ingredients into the slab, he mixed it until it formed a grayish-black paste. He took out a ceramic bottle from his storage bag and put all of the paste inside, aside from a bit. He then handed the bottle to Ning. "Can I get the bird once more please?" he asked. "Of course, here you go," Ning said and handed Knight to the man. Knight was pretty docile right now under Ning's orders. The bald man took the remaining paste on the slab and applied it gently on Knight's wound. Knight started crying. "Hurt. Burn. Pain. Just endure it, it's good for you," Ning said. Knight stopped struggling after that. After he was done applying the paste, the bald man looked back towards Ning and said, "Apply the paste twice a day for about a week and he will be fine. Just don't let him fly around or sit on his leg." "I see, thank you. How much do I have to pay?" he asked. 3 gold coins, the bald man said. That's cheap, right?" he thought, still quite unsure about the value of gold coins. "Whatever," he thought and paid the amount. "Amitabha," the man said in response. Ning was then escorted back out of the room to the reception hall, after which he said his farewell towards the girl and left the place. He went around searching for food to give to Knight and eat some himself. Going around the city, he once more got to the sect grounds of Eagle Sect. It was as rundown as he remembered. Did they not fix it or what? He wondered and left the place. Soon, he returned to the sect and went back to his room. Given that there were still 490 more days until he could double his cap, his next target was to increase his body and chi cultivation realm. He also wanted to increase his mental strength as much as he could. Another thing he wanted to do was learn new techniques. His movement technique and spear technique were too constraining during fights. So, he wanted to learn something else if possible. Might as well learn new knowledge at the same time, Ning thought. So, over the next few months, he did exactly the thing. His days were divided into doing 6 different things. First, he would cultivate all the time. Every waking hour, it was time for him to cultivate. Unfortunately, after adding the other various things to his routine, the rate of cultivation had gone down a few points. Even then, he had reached the 4th chi condensation realm in the last few days. Second, he would collect heat energy and heat energy alone. He would always have to make sure that he didn't accidentally collect chi while he was cultivating, so around the mornings, he would always stop cultivating. Third, he would increase his mental energy by wasting it on himself over the course of the night. Then during the whole day, he would get it back and increase it a few. Fourth, he would train his body. It didn't take a lot of his time. It was only during the mornings just before the sun came out, so this didn't take a lot of his days. Fifth, following the body cultivation, he would also train the techniques he got from the techniques hall. This included both him and Knight, for who he also got the techniques. Speaking of Knight, Knight had also increased his cultivation by quite a bit. He was now at the same cultivation realm as Ning. Even while doing all of this, Ning didn't forget about his work at the beast feeding hall. For 2 days, every 12 days, Ning would go to the beast's ground and feed the beasts 6 different times. That was all he had to do to get 30+ gold coins. Ning had come to understand that 30 gold coins were actually more than a disciple would earn after working in the beast care section for 3 months. His jaw had nearly dropped when he learned that. He thanked God every day that he didn't stupidly leave the beast feeding hall at that time. After so many days, Ning had also learned quite a bit about the different beasts, including their names, personalities, likes, and dislikes. Adding on to the fact that he was already knowledgeable about their rankings, he knew quite a bit about the beasts now. Ning walked out in the morning, however, he couldn't cultivate his body anymore. He couldn't help but laugh to himself when he thought that. The thing he wanted to see quite a lot had ended up being what took away his ability to cultivate his body. It was snowing. Since the clouds blocked the sun, he couldn't cultivate the sun god's morning cleansing technique. In fact, in the last couple of months, There were a few times he couldn't cultivate it due to there being clouds or it being a rainy season. So, his body was slacking quite a bit compared to his chi cultivation. I need to find a new body cultivation technique, he thought. He wanted to find one that used heat energy so that he could use the yin to heat conversion technique all night while using up his mental energy and cultivating his body at the same time. But since he needed to increase the cap, he didn't even bother asking if there was a body cultivation technique like that. Hey Ning, you up already? A man walked out from inside the house. His name was Skaben and was an inner Sect disciple, just like Ning himself. Yeah, I need to go to my work at the beast grounds. Got beasts to feed, Ning said. Honestly, you should stop doing that thing already. I heard Rikiel's arm was eaten by one of the beasts. You should just quit and join the beast training group. We actually need all the people we can. Sigh, the exam is too hard for most people, Skaben said. Ning just smiled and ignored his comment. He soon went to the beast feeding hall to get the food for the beasts. As usual, even in the cold weather, Soria was staying at the reception, trying to scare away another group of newbies. He saw Rikiel show his stub and scare away the new disciples. Ning just laughed to himself. Hello Sister Soria, Brother Rikiel. I'm here for the food, Ning said. Hello, Ning. It's your turn today? Soria asked. Yeah, it's his turn. Here, take this. Rikiel handed him another storage bag. Ning swapped the storage bags with an empty one he always carried. Soon, he went to the beast grounds and fed the different beasts. Over the next 2 days, he spent his time doing the same and earned 30 coins once more. On the third day, he got out of bed once more. Sigh, another clouded day, he thought as he looked at the sky. Doing nothing but cultivation was starting to get boring very quickly. He needed some spice in his life. I keep practicing all these techniques, but I haven't put them to use yet. Let's go to the forest and hunt some beasts. Hopefully, I can get another beast too. That will be fun, he thought. So, he left the sect and went into the forest. There were actually quite a few people in the forest already trying to try their luck at finding an amazing beast or just there to practice their training. He walked for a while before he even started finding beasts at all. But most of them were either adults or just useless beasts according to the rankings. Suddenly, a large bipedal bear saw him and started walking towards him. An earth bear? He thought as he looked at the bear. It wasn't the best in rankings, but it was above average for sure. He looked at the bear's cultivation and saw that it was the 5th chi condensation realm. That's a level higher than me, but given that it is equal to my body cultivation realm, I should be fine, he thought and took out the blood-red spear. He was here to train 2 different techniques. The first one was a spear technique. Instead of just a single thrust technique like the one true strike technique, he learned another technique called the revolving spear technique. It cost him 15 gold coins for it alone, so he knew it was quite good. The technique was very weak when used at once, but as the user kept on using it, the power would start to stack on the spear. The longer one kept up the technique, the stronger it became. Ning started spinning his spear around his body, stacking the power on it. At the same time, he also started moving around himself, as if he was dancing on the battlefield. This was Ning's second technique called the hypnotizing dance. This was a technique that made anything that looked at him get sent into a lull and start being passive. The same started happening to the bear. At first, the earth bear was rather aggressive, but once he started using the dance, it started to get docile. Then, Ning landed the first attack. Slash! A cut appeared across the bear's chest and blood started flowing down. The bear was woken up from its lull due to the pain it was feeling from the cut. Tisk. I underestimated its defense, Ning thought. He was trying to kill the bear in one hit, but due to the strong defense, he only ended up wounding it. Now, thanks to the wound, the bear wouldn't fall into a lull anymore. Whatever, it's not like I needed to rely on it anymore, he thought. Ning hadn't stopped using the revolving spear technique, so the power of the spear was still stacking. The bear came attacking with its giant paws and nearly hit Ning's chest. Ning barely managed to dodge it and returned another strike onto the bear's body. This cut was more severe than the last one. The power does keep on stacking. As long as I can keep it up, the damage will go up a lot, he thought. He kept on adding more and more cuts onto the bear's body until it couldn't handle it anymore and died. Ning stopped as he was out of breath. While the power did increase a lot as he kept on going, it also took a toll on his stamina. He let Night out and let him eat the bear's meat while he caught his breath. Ning sat around thinking. I have been gathering energy for a few months now, How long more do I have to go? He wondered. For the first time in a while, he opened his status. Status name. Ning Ruigong Energy. 5,232,000,000. Separated energy heat energy. 5,202,902,000 sound energy. 98,000. Chi energy. 29 million skills. Simultaneous thinking, intermediate map, omniscient clavis language, candlefire, yin to heat conversion technique, night vision eye, interdimensional storage. Stop time. 112 kg, air cutter, telekinesis, yin to sound conversion technique, water filtration, earthly jade cultivation method, sun god's morning cleansing technique, chi cultivation analysis, body cultivation analysis, basic all language, 2x chi acclimation rate. Whoa, that's a lot. Damn, and I am still only halfway done with it. Should I just go to sleep or what? He wondered. Nah, then I can't cultivate my body, can I? Come on, Knight, let's go. I want to find a brother for you, Ning said. Once Knight was perched upon his shoulder, he stood up and walked deeper into the forest. There were many disciples from his own sect there as well. Some greeted him, some ignored him and walked their own way. Ning didn't find anything suitable around here, so he walked in deeper into the forest. Swish! Suddenly, an arrow came flying towards Ning. Knight suddenly left his shoulders and flew out to catch the arrow. Thanks, Knight, he said as he took the arrow back and looked at it. Who attacked me? He wondered as he looked to the side the arrow came from. He couldn't see anything, but he could hear a sort of zmmm sound coming from there. Almost as if something was making a buzzing sound. Soon a dark silhouette appeared to the distance that slowly enlarged as it came closer to him. A beetle? He thought as he looked at the shape of the incoming beast. Another arrow appeared from past the beetle directly towards Ning. This time, he simply caught it with telekinesis and didn't need to have Knight do it for him. Who is sending arrows at the beetle? He thought as he watched the beetle come closer. The closer the beetle came, the more Ning's eyes started to shine. A great shelled silver beetle? He said in surprise. The incoming beetle was one of the most famous defensive beasts around here. It was also incredibly hard to find. The fact that he could even see it in front of him was already amazing. A great shelled silver beetle wasn't that high in the rankings. In fact, it was average at best. But that was only considering the fact that it had a very weak attack power and wasn't very fast. Even if it was average in those two aspects, it would probably rank higher than Knight in the rankings. Another arrow flew out from behind the beetle. However, this time the arrow actually managed to hit the beetle. It seemed the purpose of the arrows wasn't to hurt the beetle, but rather tire it until it couldn't fly anymore and was still enough to be tamed. The beetle was now at that state. No longer able to fly, it fell to the ground right in front of Ning. Ning dodged to the side as the heavy beetle slid past him until it hit a tree and stopped. It's down, young master, somebody said from behind Ning. There's someone here, another person spoke. Hey kid, leave the place. We're going to tame the beast now. A bunch of people appeared. Ning didn't want to, however, seeing the many people, he decided to leave. Wait. A voice came, quite young by the sound of it, and to make matter worse, Ning recognized it. *T, he said lightly and turned back to see Yashis looking at him with an evil grin on his face. Haha, it's been a while brother. I haven't seen you since you beat me in the arena the first time, Yashis said. Hey, what's up? Ning tried to be friendly. Actually, I got something going on nearby. I will leave you guys for now, Ning said and was about to leave. No, you don't. Surround him, Yashis said. Suddenly, the 6 men around Yashis fanned out and surrounded Ning from the different sides. Ning quietly looked around him trying to judge their strength. *T, this is going to be a tough battle if I let it get to that, he thought. Why don't we talk this through, brother? Ning said while checking their strength. Yashis was surprisingly at the 5th Chi condensation realm. 4 of the other guys were at the 6th Chi condensation realm, and surprisingly the last 2 were at the 7th Chi condensation realm. You want to talk? Ha ha ha, why don't you talk with yourself? You are quite good at that, aren't you? Yashis said. Damn, should I teleport out of here? But that would mean I would have to give away my abilities here, and I don't want to do that. Also, I don't want to use up my energy here. Besides, he thought as he looked around. I really want to see how strong I am, he thought. Knight was ready to fight as well. He was in an attacking stance, ready to fly away the moment Ning gave the orders. But, Ning knew that there were too many opponents for Knight alone, and there was no way he could fight against the 6th and 7th chi condensation realm. I know you want to help me, buddy, but it is really dangerous if you stay out here. Come back in, he said as he put Knight back into the beast pouch. Ha ha ha. You already knew that I was doing this for your beast, huh? Alright, since you know it, hand it over? Yashis gestured towards the beast pouch. What? He didn't stop me for the humiliation he suffered, but Knight, he was surprised. He then looked towards Yashis straight in the eyes, and said, No? No? You don't want to hand it over and be spared from death? Yashis asked. Haha. You are going to kill me. And what about the punishment from the sect? Ning asked. As per the sect rules, if physical harm was done to the other disciples, one would be heavily punished to pay for the disciples' healing costs and other fees. However, if one were to kill another disciple, he or she would have their cultivation base ruined and expelled from the sect. What? You scared now, so you start looking for excuses to survive. Don't worry, nothing bad is going to happen to me. As long as the sect doesn't know that I killed you, I will be free from any punishment that would otherwise be sent upon me, Yashis said. Ning sighed. It seemed fighting was the only option left here. He just hoped that a combination of nearly 6th level of body cultivation realm and 4th realm of chi condensation realm was enough to handle the 7 people here. Just as he thought that 10 more opponents appeared out of nowhere, shocking Ning to his core. *T. He thought as he looked towards the 10 different beasts that the 7 different people had taken out. F*K. I didn't expect them all to have beasts. They aren't even from the Mist Origin sect, Ning thought. Attack, Yashis said, not even giving Ning time to prepare. Hearing the shout, all the 6 different people ran towards Ning. Ning immediately took out his blood-red spear and started revolving it around him. Using the twin-step movement technique, he launched out of the encirclement and landed somewhere away from the people. He immediately started using hypnotizing dance to mess with the different people. However, their cultivation base was high enough to not get confused by such techniques. Only Yashis fell victim to the technique. Ning immediately rushed towards Yashis to attack him, but suddenly, a bird appeared out of nowhere, clawing at him. Ning had to move to the side to dodge the bird and missed Yashis. Yashis woke up from the lull and looked around as if he had just woken up from a sleep. What happened? He said in surprise. Young master, get back. That boy knows some sort of technique that affects the mind. You were asleep for a second there, one of his people told him. Yashis got a little scared and started hiding behind his people. Ning took the moment to try and run away, but there were already 2 beasts in front of him, blocking his way. He used one true thrust on the orange-colored winged deer and killed it in one shot. It was only at the 4th chi condensation realm, so it couldn't handle Ning's power. What? The people who were distracted due to their young master's predicament were a little surprised to see one of their beasts die like that. A hyena like a monster came from Ning's back and attacked him. However, Ning could see everywhere, so he simply turned his spear around and slashed the hyena. It wasn't enough to kill it, but it was enough to wound it at least. That boy's weapon, I think it's a spirit artifact, a man said amongst the group. No wonder he is killing our beasts so easily. His cultivation isn't high enough to do that sort of damage, they said. Their reasons for killing Ning increased by 1 more. 2 people had already made their way to Ning and one of them kicked him. Ning tried to dodge, but it was too late. Even with telekinesis used, he wasn't able to slow down the kick and all and thrown back. Thankfully, telekinesis has worked as a sort of buffer to waste most of the energy coming towards him. Another man came towards Ning. He even had a sword in his hand. A slash came towards Ning, and he barely managed to dodge it. Ning swung his spear towards the man, but a fire-red bird appeared right in front of him and caught the spear with its talons. Fire erupted from its wings and flew towards Ning. Ning let it hit him as the fires did nothing to his sturdy body. However, during that time more beasts and men had gathered around him. A zap of lightning appeared out of nowhere and attacked Ning. As soon as he was hit, Ning tried to move away, but he realized that his body had been numbed and he could no longer move. *T, he thought. Before he could even think of something else, a foot appeared behind him kicking him away. Ning got back his mobility midair and he landed safely. Damn, this kid isn't taking any damage. Does he had armor along with the weapon too? One of the men asked. Must be. Who is this kid? They started to question. Doesn't matter. Just kill him and those artifacts will be ours, Yashis said. Yes, the men said and they all immediately went to attack Ning. 6 people, 8 monsters, he couldn't stop them at all. A kick from the left, a ball of fire to the right, a punch to the chest, a bite to the leg. Multiple attacks landed on him, nearly forcing him to use his energy. No, I need that to increase my cap, he thought, stubbornly. His body was now full of cuts and bruises all over. Suddenly, they all stopped attacking. What's going on? Ning thought through the pain of his body. Suddenly, he saw one of the men standing far away with his sword. He was holding the sword as if it were a javelin. Before Ning realized what was happening, the man let go of the sword with a massive sonic book. It hit Ning square in the right chest and dragged him along with it until it struck a tree and was stuck in it. Ah! Ning shouted in pain, and through the pain, he heard 3 different notifications. You have successfully experienced a single object with over 1 billion kinetic energy in your human body. All hidden conditions fulfilled. Congratulations, host, you have unlocked kinetic energy. Something he had wanted to hear for so long, he finally heard it. Kinetic energy, finally, he thought. He was finally free from the burden of having to continuously gather energy every day without spending any. He could finally, without a guilty conscience, use his energy. System, he felt like he hadn't called it in forever. Heal my body, he said. It will cost 68 million energy, are you sure? Yes, he said. Confirmed. Hey, that kid is still breathing. Sorghel, go and finish him off, one of the men said. Okay, one of the other men said and launched towards Ning. However, before he even reached Ning, he saw that the wounds all over Ning's body were slowly healing, and even the wound around the sword was getting healed. What the man got shocked, but he still didn't stop. He stretched his hand backward and sent out a terrifying punch towards Ning. Ning was done healing except for the sword on his shoulder. Seeing the man coming towards him, he grabbed the sword with his left hand and pulled it out. Both he and the sword fell to the ground as he barely escaped the man's punch. Ning was still holding onto his spear with his right arm, and so, he used this chance to send out a one true spear strike towards the man. Bang! A giant gaping hole appeared in the man's torso, and he fell to the ground. He was dead. Suddenly, a green mark appeared on the body of one of the beasts in the group and it disappeared in a flash of light. With that, the beast ran away from the group, as if it was finally freed. Ning stood there near the corpse, surprised at himself that he killed someone without hesitation. He felt nothing towards the man's death. The system had told him that his emotions were amplified, and yet he felt nothing towards the man that laid at his foot dead. Is that because I care not for this man's life? He wondered. The world of cultivation was one where the strongest lived and the weak ones died. I am stronger than him, so I get to live. He looked towards the remaining group and wondered, am I stronger than all of them as well? Brother Sorghel, that man, the men were shocked. Yashis looked at Ning with wide eyes. Ning looked at his left hand and the sword he was grabbing. It was a normal sword that one could find anywhere, but, this will do, Ning thought. Ning had never used a sword before, but he didn't need to. System, give me a sword technique around 500 million energy, he said. System suggests you get Radiant Holy Sword for 523 million energy. All right, Ning said. Confirmed. Suddenly, a wave of information appeared in his brain as he knew what he could do with a sword and how to use the technique. Compared to the staff, this one was much more suitable for the current situation. So, he put the spear into his interdimensional storage and held the sword in both of his hands. That bastard. He killed Brother Sorghel. Everyone attack, one of the men said. Ning breathed slowly and opened his eyes. Slowly, the sword started glowing yellow. Ning then took a single step forward and slashed. A long line of yellow slash escaped from the sword and traveled towards the group. The men stopped abruptly and escaped, but the slash was too fast for the rest of the beasts. Multiple screams rang out as the beasts that were in the way either got injured or died. No. The men screamed too. Yashis had been staying quite far behind and had never taken out his 2 beasts, so he was safe from the attack. Looking at the horrible scene, the men screamed, "You are dead now, you bastard." Ning, however, heard none of it. He was simply shocked at how strong the attack was and just how much chi it required. It nearly dried his whole supply of chi in that one single attack. He looked at his shaking hands and thought, I better not use that attack casually. The others should do a good enough job, he thought as he thought to the different sword strikes the Radiant Holy Sword had. Once again, the sword he was holding started to glow yellow. It wasn't the same shade or intensity as the last time, but the men couldn't tell the difference and started to get frantic. And then Ning disappeared. With no self-restraint maintained, Ning was finally showing his full capability. He suddenly appeared behind one of the men and made a straight vertical slash. Two separate halves of the same man fell to either side of him. Even in death, the man didn't know what had happened. Ning on the other hand disappeared once more. Another head fell to the ground as Ning arrived behind another man. The men saw Ning's head from where the man's head should have been in. Ning looked towards Yashis and disappeared once more. He appeared behind Yashis and swung his sword downward. Clang, a sound came as one of the 7th Shi Condensation Realm men stopped his sword with their own. The other 7th Realm cultivator was still alive as well, and he hurried to his young master's position and started making preparation for his escape. The man fighting Ning managed to block his sword and even pushed it back. He then swung towards Ning. Ning swung towards him too. Instead of a metallic clang, there was instead a single ting noise as a sword was cut in half. Ning looked in surprise as he saw that it was his own sword that was cut in half. Ning then looked at the man's sword and asked in surprise, "A spirit artifact? What's it to you, you bastard?" the man said and started swinging towards Ning. Ning jumped backward to dodge and took out the blood-red spear. Ning prepared the one true spear strike and attacked the man with the sword. The man used some techniques and attacked Ning as well. However, just as the attack reached Ning, Ning disappeared. Suddenly, the last remaining man, who was a little far away, watching the fight, had his head blown apart by the spear. Instead of clashing with the man's spirit artifact, Ning had instead decided to teleport to behind the only remaining person of the group and use the one true spear strike to his head, blowing his whole head apart. "No!" the man with the sword screamed. By now the remaining beasts were either freed or dead. So, the only fighter remaining on the battlefield was the man. Ning swung his spear, throwing away any blood that was on it. "Now it's just you and me. Can you save yourself?" Ning asked. "I will King kill you, you bastard," the man said and charged at Ning with his sword. Ning himself started to spin his spear around and used the revolving spear art. He also used the hypnotizing dance, but as expected it had no effect on the man. The sword and the spear clashed, and clear as day it was the sword's victory. But Ning didn't let that stop him. Once the spear was hit, he used the new momentum of the spear to revolve it around more, gaining more power in the process. Once again, he brought the spear back to the man and clashed with the sword once again. The sword won, but not as clearly as last time. Ning once again moved the spear and brought it back towards the man. The man tried to hit it away with his sword once more, but when the spear and sword clashed, he realized that they were both equally powerful. They got scared. The spear is getting stronger, how? He thought. By this point, Ning had moved his spear back and was bringing it back around to hit him once more. Instead of clashing once more, however, the man jumped backward in fear and got away from the spear. But that didn't let him escape from the attack. Ning used the twin-step movement technique to burst out in speed and follow the man, swinging his spear in the process. The man dodged a few times, but it was getting harder and harder to dodge. So, reluctantly, he clashed with the spear once more. Bang! A massive sound came from the clash as both Ning and the man were thrown backward, the man more so than Ning. Ning finally breathed in and started huffing once more. During the entire time, as the power in the spear got stronger, he was stifling his breath so as to not make any mistakes. *T, the power is all gone, he thought. He then turned to look at the man and saw something surprising. The man too got up from the ground. His ears were still ringing from the loud sound just now and got apprehensive just in case Ning decided to attack right now. He put forth his sword with both hands, but the sword was bent from the middle at a 45-degree angle. "What?" the man screamed in surprise. He couldn't believe that his prized possession, the spirit artifact he worked so hard for so many years to get, was actually destroyed by the kid's spear. He could no longer get angry now. All he had in his heart was fear and despair. The kid clearly didn't have a very high cultivation base, yet his fighting prowess was that of a monster. Instead of fighting any longer, the man turned around and ran away. Using his full cultivation and the fastest movement speed he knew, he ran away from the fight. Ning looked at the man and sighed. Then, he disappeared. A few dozen meters in front of the man, Ning appeared once more and readied his spear. The one true spear strike. The man tried to stop abruptly, but it was too late. In a single stab, Ning let out the full power of both of his cultivation bases at once and hit the man's chest. Mist, that was what the man's chest had turned into. The power was so strong that it obliterated everything in 10 centimeters around the place where Ning had struck the man and created a gaping hole in it. But the man fell to the ground, dead. Ning took a deep breath. He could think about the many things men would usually say after a massacre like that, but now was not the time. There was more of this to be done. However, when he looked towards the direction where Yashis and the other man had run away, he sighed. They were nowhere to be found. I guess this is it, Ning thought. Come out, he said, and let Knight free. Knight could have probably helped a lot, but he didn't want to let him get hurt in his stead. Seeing that there was no more fight to be done, Knight got lazy and went back to sleeping on Ning's shoulders. Ning simply chuckled and walked back towards the place he had been in the first place. There it was, still breathing heavily, the great shelled silver beetle. Although it was a beetle, it was beyond the size of a normal human. And this beetle looked to be an adult from the looks of it. System. What does this beetle like to eat? He asked. Sunflower seeds, all right. Make around 10 kilograms of it. At the same time, make a similar amount of snakeskin as well, Ning said. It will cost 40 million energy. Ning no longer cared about how much it cost. Sure, he said. A lot of sunflower seeds and snakeskins appeared in front of Ning. Knight suddenly woke up when he smelled the snakeskin, and the beetle stopped breathing heavily for a second when it saw the many sunflower seeds on the ground. It turned around and walked up near Ning and started eating the food. While it was doing that, Ning went and did his own thing as well. He was a little too low on chi right now, so he needed other ways to tame a beast. System. Give me a strong beast taming skill, Ning said. You can get the Supreme Dominance for 1,200,000,000 energy. Whoa, that's a lot. But I guess I can afford it. Buy it, Ning said. Confirmed information about the new technique entered his mind. Supreme Dominance. Just as the name, it dominated anything's mind, turning them into one's subordinate, whether they be beasts or humans. However, the stronger the mental strength of the target, the more energy was required to dominate. He placed his hands on top of the beetle's mind and said, Dominate. Suddenly, the system notified that he lost 18 million energy. Ning didn't know if that meant the beetle had a high mental strength or weak, but since the energy cost was low, he accepted it. Stop eating, he said. The beetle suddenly stopped eating the seeds and looked towards him. Knight also stopped eating to see why, but just as quickly returned to eating. The beetle, however, kept on waiting for more command. You can eat now, he said. The beetle went back to eating the seeds. Just as the information in his head said, the technique didn't do anything to the beasts aside from adding a single info in their head. Follow the caster's commands. That was all, and that was all that was needed. Now that I think about it, what is your cultivation base? He wondered and checked. Second chi condensation realm. So weak. Doesn't matter, I will find good cultivation techniques for you both now. After I just unlock the 2 caps for kinetic energy. Alright, come in you both, you can eat later, Ning said and put both of them back into his beast pouch. He smiled as he got happy that he found another great beast. He looked around at the dead people and beasts. He sighed but did nothing and left. Since he had nothing more to do in the forest, he went back to the sect. Along the way, he saw a few more people, but all of them were giving him weird looks. Ning just ignored them. Sigh, it's still cloudy, Ning thought as he sighed. It's him. That disciple right there, that was the disciple that tried to kill me. A voice came from not far away from Ning. Ning looked to the front and realized that it was Yashis, along with the remaining man from the group of 6. It seemed they had brought along 5 elders from the sect. What does he want now? Ning wondered. Disciple, stop right there. One of the elders came forward and ordered Ning. Ning didn't know what was happening, but he did as the elder ordered. That's him, elders. That's the disciple that attacked me while we were hunting for our great shelled silver beetle and killed most of my father's people who were with me, Yashis said. What? It was you who tried to kill me. Stop twisting the facts, Ning said angrily. What twisting the facts? If 7 of us wanted to kill you, you would be dead by now, not us, Yashis said. Not only did he steal my would-be pet, but he also killed my men and even tried to kill me. Please elder, you have to get justice for me, he screamed as if the deaths of his people had affected him a lot. We will soon know the truths. Disciple, tell us, where did you get that blood on your clothes? The elder asked. What? Ning thought as he looked down and realized only now that his whole body was covered in blood. I killed his people. They were coming after me to steal my bird, Ning said. Lies, we did no such thing, Yashis screamed. Silence. So you admit that you killed their people, huh? Then can you show us the beasts in your beast pouch? The elder said. Ning took out Knight from the beast pouch and said, this is the beast that they wanted to steal, elders. They wanted my Knight snatcher, so they surrounded me and attacked me, Ning explained. What about your other beast? The elder asked. My other beast? Ning paused. What about my other beast? Ning asked. Show it to us, the elder said. Ning deliberated for a moment on whether to show the beetle or not, but if he didn't, they would get highly suspicious of him and might even believe the guy's lies. So, he brought out the beetle. Oh, the elder said in amazement. It was not every day one saw both Night Snatcher and great-shelled silver beetle together. Can you tell me how you got the beetle? The elder asked. Ning explained the circumstances of how they met by chance and the men following it tried to kill him for his bird. After killing the men, he tamed the beetle. I see. You say you were attacked by them. Can you show us your wounds? The elder asked. My wounds? Ning checked all of his body, but it was all healed. I don't have any, he said. Oh, you managed to kill 5 people without getting wounded? Commendable, the elder said. Ning sighed in relief, thinking the elder was seeing his truths. Commendable, yes, but only if you were saying the truths, the elder said. What? No, I am telling the truth, Ning said. Ha, you want us to believe that you managed to fight 7 people with cultivation bases higher than yours, killed them, and took the beetle because they happened to meet you and wanted to kill you? You think I was born yesterday? The elder said angrily. No, but I am telling T. Ning tried to say, but was immediately cut off. Shut up. We will hear not one more lie coming from your mouth. If it were a normal fight, we would have let you go. But, for trying to take the life of another disciple of the sect, I, Saihou, an elder of mist origin sect, hereby expel you from the sect. You may never land your feet inside the sect ever again. Ning was walking towards the city gate right now. His identification card, rulebook, and beast pouch that the sect gave to him had been taken away. He had tried to explain what had happened to the elder once more, but the elder just wouldn't listen to him. From his perspective, what had taken place should not have taken place at all. In the end, he reluctantly left the place. He was expelled, and thus he was now a rogue cultivator. It doesn't matter. I have the system. As long as I have that, I can go anywhere. I can do anything. This is only a small island in a continent on a planet amongst the infinite. Once I have enough energy, I will go anywhere I want. Right now, I should focus on collecting my energy, he thought. He then looked to Knight and the beetle following him. Knight was inconspicuous enough that he wasn't a problem, but the beetle was way too big. System, can you make 2 beast storage space with 20 kilos for one and 300 kilos for the other one, he said. Beast space 1 by 20 kilograms, and 1 by 300 kilograms cost 370 million energy. Yeah, buy it, he said. Confirmed he now had a space inside of him where the beasts could freely stay and cultivate both their cultivation and techniques at an ascended rate and also be healed if they were ever injured. Also, perhaps the best feature of all, it was linked to his interdimensional space, so as long as it had food in it, the beasts in beast space would always get their food when they were hungry. Once the bird and the bug were in, he went to the city gate. He paid a small fee and walked into the city. Then, he found a tavern for himself. He paid exactly 10 gold coins to take the tavern for 100 days so he could safely work on his energy cap increment. Very soon, energy was going to be something he didn't have to care about. He cultivated overnight and waited until it was early morning. When morning arrived and his daily cap removing time arrived, he stopped cultivating. Kinetic energy. The energy of a moving body. No, a body moving relative to me, that's what the system said. Then, he thought and called our Knight. Knight came out and looked around. He wasn't hungry, there wasn't a fight and it was early morning. So, he looked around, confused, why he was even out. Hit me with the flat side of your talon, as hard as you can, Ning said. Hit. Master. Cannot. The bird believed he couldn't do what he was asked to do. Just do it, I allow you to, Ning said. He hadn't used supreme dominance on Knight, so he still didn't fully follow his orders and needed persuasion. If you hit me, I will give you more snakeskin, Ning said. SWOSH Knight suddenly flew towards him and gave a kick towards him with folded talons. Ning put his hands forth and expected a massive sound to appear. One did, but not as loud. Is that how I get the kinetic energy? He wondered. Status. Status name. Ning Ruigong energy, 3,462,000,000. Separated energy heat energy, 3,426,000,000 sound energy, 32 million. Chi energy. Zero kinetic energy, 2 million skills. Simultaneous thinking, intermediate map, omniscient clavis language, candlefire, yin to heat conversion technique, night vision eye, interdimensional storage, stopped time. 112 kg, air cutter, telekinesis, yin to sound conversion technique, water filtration, earthly jade cultivation method, sun god's morning cleansing technique, chi cultivation analysis, body cultivation analysis, basic all language, 2x chi acclamation rate, radiant holy sword, supreme dominance, beast space. Wait, sh*t. Most of it went to sound energy. No, I wanted kinetic, Ning said in frustration. Two objects striking each other always created heat and sound energy. If Ning wanted to continue gathering kinetic energy, he would have to do something else other than getting hit from night. sh*t. Energy always transforms from one to another. How am I going to ever gather kinetic energy without getting heat and sound mixed in with it? He started to get unusually frustrated. FCK, system. Help me. Give me some information regarding how to collect kinetic energy, he asked. The system will not help you regards to the energy. Host will have to figure it out on his own. Damn it, Ning said and tried to calm himself. Unable to do anything anymore, he decided to keep on cultivating. To increase his cultivation speed once more, he decided to buy the 4x chi acclamation rate. Fortunately, the rate was added to the previous one and the previous cost was discounted. So, he ended up having to only pay something like 848 million in energy. That was still a lot of energy, but at least he wasn't ripped off by the system. Over the course of the next 10 days, he spent his time cultivating and looking up different pieces of knowledge. He wanted to buy an all beasts information knowledge, but apparently, it had information from all over the multiverses, and even the universes one started the cost at around 23 billion for a basic one. This lets him know that what he learned in the Mist Origin Sect wasn't even the tip of the iceberg in terms of the beasts. He ended up buying an intermediate one for just the beasts in planet Kumia. Finally, after 100 days of different types of attacks, Ning managed to barely collect kinetic energy and unlock his next cap. Now, the cap had gone up to 80 million energy a day. Ning spent around 50 more days cultivating non-stop. He was very close to breaking through, and on the 49th day, he broke through to the 5th chi condensation realm. His strength increased once more as his body and chi were now on equal footing. Subsequently, on day 50, he managed to collect 250 million kinetic energy and increased his cap once more, doubling it to 160 million energy. Why is collecting kinetic energy so hard? Ning thought. Every time he tried to have night attack him, he would always end up getting heat and sound as well. He wouldn't get a lot of heat, but sound, he would get most of it due to the origin of the sound being his body. One way to increase the amount of kinetic energy was to have night attack him slow enough to not make a lot of sounds. But then, he would just end up getting nearly no energy at all, and he would have to do the thing nearly 100 times just to fill the energy up. That was very inefficient. So, now that he had a 160 million energy cap, he decided to forget about everything and just live life freely. He had no need to worry about the 10 billion energy to double his cap as well, as that would come to him whenever it could. So now, it was Ning's turn to start spending like crazy. The first thing he did was look for a body cultivation technique. System, show me body cultivation techniques around 1 billion energy that I can use, he said. You can buy the earth-shattering heaven-tempering art for 1,102,000,000 energy. Alright, buy it, Ning said. Confirmed a wave of information appeared in his mind as the earth-shattering, heaven-tempering art imprinted into his mind. He looked at the technique and was surprised at how easy, yet unique it was. The body cultivation depended on your chi gathering speed. It used the excess chi gathered around one's body to temper it by forcefully entering the body. It not only tempered the body, but also the meridian and the mind. Meaning, it increased one's ability to cultivate chi and mental ability as well. So, this is different from chi acclamation rate, right? That one speeds up the rate at which my body gets accustomed to the chi around me, while this one makes the manipulation of chi inside my body better, he thought. Let's try it out, he said and tried the technique. He used his earthly jade cultivation method and cultivated it for a period of time. Chi started gathering around his body, glowing it for a few hours. During the time, the chi was getting violent as started cutting his skin open all over the place. Slowly, They penetrated his skin and reached his muscles. After that, they reached his bones, and then his organs. Soon they also reached his meridians and brain. As soon as they reached any of them, they started to cut them apart just like they did the skin. The cuts were minuscule, however, and they quickly regenerated with his current cultivation base. The cuts appear and disappear quickly, but the amount was very low in his opinion. His knowledge had told him that there would be way more cuts than this. Ning quickly realized what was wrong and stopped. I need a better cultivation method, he thought. He quickly checked his status and realized that he still had about 6 billion energy in multiple types. So he asked the system, find me a cultivation method that costs about 2 billion energy. He was getting a little frivolous with his energy, but it was warranted. He had spent months without spending any, and now he was doing it all at once. You can buy Divine Devouring Vortex Technique for 2,120,000,000 energy. Yeah, buy it, he said. Confirmed. Once the technique was firmly instilled into his mind, he started cultivating it at the same time as earth-shattering heaven-tempering art. Soon, a vortex of chi appeared in the room that sucked in all the chi from around the room. The vortex kept the chi that was gathered there and kept it from leaving the area. Suddenly, Ning was gathering a lot more chi than usual, nearly 10 times more. Once again, the chi started cutting his skin, however, it was way more in amount than last time. It meant that his skin was getting stronger, faster. As previously, the chi started to enter his skin and cut apart his muscles as well, making them stronger. Next were the bones. They were harder to cut, but the number wasn't lower at all. The chi was doing their job. Soon they reached the organs as well and cut them apart. Next was meridian and then brain. Meridians were what carried the chi around the body. They were also what were influenced by spiritual roots and were normally called one. Once the meridians were tempered using the chi, he was sure that his cultivation speed would be much faster than it was already. The brain was what he was worried about most, but it seemed his concerns were unnecessary. Not only was the brain's tempering fine, but it was also the best. Due to there not being a single pain receptor in the brain, he couldn't feel a single pain despite the numerous cuts in them. There was no response from the brain being cut to a level that he wondered if it was even working. Alas, he could physically see inside of himself, so he knew it was working. Finally, after a while, he stopped and felt himself. It was working for sure. In fact, just this little training alone had increased his body cultivation from level 5 to 6. The earth-shattering, heaven-tempering art together with the Divine Devouring Vortex technique was just what he needed to give that push to increase his body cultivation by a level. Now his body was enough to compete with others who had cultivation bases of the 6th Chi Condensation Realm. In combination with his own 5th Chi Condensation Realm cultivation base, he would be much stronger than others. He stopped that and thought of more things to add to his repertoire. So, he increased his interdimensional storage by another 100 kg by spending 500 million energy and bought the omniscient map of Kumia. Now, he knew all of the worlds like that back of his hands. The exact shape and size of each city, forests, mountain range, desert, lakes, island, sea, country, ocean, continent, and the entire planet as a whole. Ning could clearly visualize everything. He was finally starting to learn just how little he had traveled from when he had started. I should go around more. But these places seem so dangerous. If I end up wasting so much energy on a new body that would die easily, that would be bad. Maybe I should get one that can't die. That makes sense. Alright, system. Can you change my new body in the auto buy list to be indestructible? I want one that can take no damage, Ning asked. Making an invulnerable body is not possible. You would need an infinite amount of energy for that, and that is just not possible. What about I collect energy from the infinite universes? Isn't that possible? He asked. No, once you collect energy, it becomes finite, and if something is finite, you can always get more. Also, if you were to collect energy from the infinite universes, you would spend all your infinite life going to the new universes. OSH*T, that's right. So I can't get a body that cannot get damaged, huh? So, what about one that can recover from the damage? Oh, I know, system. Make a body that can regenerate even after it's been destroyed. Or better yet, give me a skill that does just that, so that my body can never truly die unless I am not in it. You can buy infinite regeneration for 436 trillion. Sorry, it costs what now? Ning was dumbfounded at the amount. Not even his extremely amazing body cost that much. I can get like 200 different best body. Oh. This does constantly regenerates my body. So maybe, it's not that bad of a deal, Ning thought. Alright. Add it with my body and keep both of them on the top of the auto-buy list. I don't want one without the other, Ning said. It would take him hundreds of thousands of days to get that amount of energy, but he wasn't worried. He had hundreds of thousands of days. Alright, enough about me. Let's think of new stuff for my beasts, Ning thought. From the beast knowledge he acquired regarding Kumiya, Knight was not a very high-ranking beast even amongst the birds category itself. It was actually considered average at best. However, the list had a lot of extinct beasts as well, so amongst the alive ones, Knight wasn't that bad. Still, only above average. What can I do? Ning wondered. There were a few things Ning could do. The first one was to give Knight direct knowledge regarding the techniques that would benefit him the best. But that was only increasing the strength by a bit. Ning wanted something better. The second one was making his body better so that he could be the best version of what he could be right now. But that too was limited to the species he was born as. A night snatcher was strong, but not that strong. So, the third option was the only one left for him. I need to evolve Knight, Ning thought. System. How can I evolve my beasts? Ning asked. You can directly change their species. However, this will cost a lot of energy. Ning shook his head when he heard that. If the system itself said that it would cost a lot of energy, then it definitely would cost a lot. You can also give it blood essence belonging to its evolved form. Its evolved form. What does a night snatcher evolve to? He wondered. He looked into Kumiya's beast knowledge and found one. A dark emperor eagle? The description doesn't look all that bad, but it's a little disappointing to be honest. But, dark emperor itself can grow too, so maybe, he thought. Knight, come out, he said and called Knight out. Alright system, make blood essence of dark emperor eagle for Knight to eat, Ning said. Creating 3 drops of blood essence of dark emperor to guarantee evolution will cost 660 million energy. If it guarantees evolution, then use it, Ning said. Confirmed, something. Me. Enter. Knight looked around confusedly as he felt the 3 drops of blood essence directly be created inside of him. It's fine. Come, go back to sleep, Ning said and Knight disappeared. Now, do I have enough for the beetle? He wondered and checked the status. He still had about 1 billion of energy left, so he decided to help the beetle too. Its evolved form was called a golden armored beetle. It had a better defense and also had good attack and speed compared to a great-shelled silver beetle. He called it out and made the system give it 2 drops of blood essence to guarantee that it would evolve too. Then he sent it back to the beast space to adapt to the blood essence. The evolution wouldn't happen immediately and would take around at least a few months. So, for that time, Ning needed something else to do to pass his time. What should I do? He wondered. He didn't want to leave Starsight City just yet, so he decided. He was going to join the Pure Cleansing Sect. I have to get bald for the sect, right? FCK it. I can grow my hair later. I will cut it now if I am required to, Ning thought. He wanted to see how a sect that worked around healing people worked. So, he decided to join it. However, after going out and asking around, he realized that the recruitment for the sect had ended a few days ago and another one wouldn't arrive in nearly a month. So, Ning went back to his room at the tavern. Thankfully, there were still around 30 days left on the tavern, so he was fine. He spent the next set of days doing nothing but using earth-shattering heaven-tempering art together with the divine devouring vortex cultivation method, and increased his cultivation as much as he could. Early in the morning, Ning walked out of the tavern room. He still had a few days left on the tavern's duration, but he didn't care about it. If he passed today, he wouldn't have to return at all. Ning walked to the city center and got himself registered to join the sect. Eligibility was very simple for the Pure Cleansing Sect. As long as one was a cultivator, looking to learn the healing arts, they allowed anyone to enter. Age wasn't even a factor for eligibility. These are some very charitable people, Ning thought to himself. He was now in a hall with many others, waiting for the exam. Soon, a middle-aged man arrived in the room and bowed to everyone. Ning was surprised that an examiner would initiate the bow before the examinees. He looked carefully and realized that he was the same man that made the healing paste for Knight. Oh, he is the examiner, huh, Ning thought. Welcome everyone to our humble sect. We have a single requirement for being able to join the sect, the middle-aged bald man said. And that is being able to research stuff and recognize different things. So, I will call out your name. Once I do, please come up and one of our disciples will take you to the exam place, the man said. So, he called out 5 different names. 5 people, all of different ages, stood up and walked to the door. There were 5 disciples, ready to take them to their respective exam rooms. The room went quiet for a few minutes, and only after 30 minutes did one of the disciples return. "All right, another one," the examiner said and called out another name. The disciple took that person to the back. Another disciple arrived and one more examinee was taken to take their exam. The same thing happened for a while. A disciple would take the examinee to their exam, and once it was done, the disciples returned soon to get another one. Finally, it was Ning's turn to go. A disciple took him through a narrow corridor and entered one of the 5 rooms it was attached to. The disciple stayed at the door and let Ning walk in. Inside was a white room with nothing but a table and a woman behind the table. The woman seemed to be quite old and had a streak of white hair running down the side of it. "Ah, please enter," she said after seeing Ning. Ning walked in and stood in front of the table. On the table were 5 different things kept in different spaces from each other. On the corner of the table were a set of different books. "What's going on?" Ning wondered. "Please tell me the name of all of these ingredients in front of you. You can take as long as you want and can freely look through these books for answers," the old woman said. Ning was a little surprised at how different the test was from Mist Origin Sect and said, "Okay. Very well, you can now start," she said as he took out an hourglass and flipped it on the table. "An hourglass? For what? I thought we could take as long as we wanted?" Ning wondered. "Wait for a second, if we can take as long as we wanted, how are they even going to select the ones that can enter? Could it be that us having all the time we need is a lie?" Ning wondered. "All right, I got no time to waste," he thought and looked at the 5 different items on the table. Starting from the left to the right was a root, a berry, a leaf, a bone, and a flower. Ning immediately picked up the first book and started flipping it around. He wanted to find images that matched the items that were in front of him, but there were just too many in the book. Still, he didn't give up. Once the first book was over, he looked at the second book and found one item. It was the flower called Spring Dew Orchid. "This one is Spring Dew Orchid," he said. "Yes," the woman said and put out a badge in front of the flower that had its name on it. "All right, off to the other ones," he thought. He flipped through the rest of the books, but there were just too many to just read them while still finding images that matched the ones in front of him. God, I don't know how many times I might have missed them already, Ning wondered. His mind was way faster than normal humans thanks to the tempering art and the process of reducing mental energy to the lowest and bringing it all back up. Even then, it was impossible to look through the whole book to search for these ingredients. So, Ning decided to take a shortcut. "System, give these books information straight into my mind," he said. "It will cost you 734 million energy for all the books." "Yes, do it," he said. Confirmed suddenly, all of the book's knowledge was readily available for him to know. His eyes shined brightly as he recognized the root on the left. He picked up the corresponding book and turned the page to where the root's information was. He acted as if he had randomly found the page and said, "That's a root of a twin leaf tree." "Correct," the woman said and brought out a badge with its name on it and put it up front. Ning acted as he looked through the book once more and after a few minutes correctly named the leaf and the berry. The berry is a wild gale berry. The leaf is a bitter bane leaf. He was obviously right on both accounts. The woman brought out the badges for them too and kept them in front of the item. Now, only the bone was left, but that was where the problem lied. He had no idea what the bone was. Ning was stumped for a while. Did they forget to include the book for the bone? He wondered. He pointed to the ingredients and asked, "Can I touch the ingredients?" The woman smiled and said, "If you are sure they are not poisonous, then go ahead." Ning stopped in his tracks. "Poisonous? Can't be, right? Whatever, I will heal it if I really do get poisoned," he thought. Then, he walked forward to the bone and picked it up with both of his hands. He tried to squeeze the bone to check that it really was a bone and not some weird plant in the shape of a bone. Unfortunately, it was as hard as a bone and as white as a bone. So, it was a bone. This doesn't look like anything in the book though. Was there a mistake regarding the ingredient? He wondered. But that shouldn't have been the case. From his understanding, the people here knew enough to not make a single such mistake. Even if they did, by now it would have been fixed. So I can assume that it's not a mistake and that this bone really is meant to be here, he thought and looked through the information once more in his head and recalled every single ingredient in the book. There was not a single one in there that matched the bone. So is the bone not an ingredient? Is that why there is nothing about it? Ning wondered. But no, She told me to name all the 5 Ingra. His eyes shined brightly as he came to a realization. Ning decided to take a gamble on what he had just learned. I am done, he said. The woman was a little surprised and asked, aren't you going to name the bone? No, I have done what you asked and named all the ingredients on the table. The bone is not one of them, Ning said. Interesting, very interesting, the woman said. Good job. We put the bone in the mix to either get people to give up early and know that it's not a good thing to get stuck on something while researching, or get brave enough to ask us what the ingredient is themselves. We were only looking for people who could either understand there is a limit to what one could learn or could think outside the box. You somehow managed to do neither and found out that the bone was not one of the ingredients. Congratulations, you have passed the test. The woman turned to the disciple at the door and said, he has passed. The disciple nodded and took Ning to another room. He walked in to see that there were quite a few people there already. Most of them were actually older folks and a very small number of them were young people like Ning. Ning nodded to the people and went to a corner to wait. The room was quiet and stayed that way for a while. Some people even started to sit down and cultivate. Ning just stayed there and waited. People kept coming in one after another, and after a few hours of waiting, the examiner entered as well. The test had lasted for around 8 hours and of the original examinee, only 40 people had passed. Congratulations everyone for passing the entrance exam. We are happy to see that so many of you didn't get stuck on not being able to answer the ingredients and instead understood your limitations. So, starting now you will all be new members of the Pure Cleansing Sect. Welcome everyone, the examiner said with a clap, and the people behind him started to clap as well. Our sect does not have a distinction between outer or inner sect. Everyone is equal and there to help others. You will get books to read for free and learn the different techniques. Our only requirement is that you cut your hair to show that you are one of Pure Cleansing Sect's disciples and that you work in the Physicians Guild after the first month and help us earn some money so that we can keep the sect running. Haha, the examiner laughed. Ah, I forgot to introduce myself once again. Sigh, my name is Saband Fior, and I am the first elder of the sect. You guys can just call me First Elder. There is nothing else that you should learn really. You can get to know the rules from the handbook. Don't worry, we are not very strict. The First Elder spoke a few more words and left the hall. Ning and the rest were taken to have their identification card made and got their own robes as well as a guidebook. After that, they were taken to a different room and had their hair cut. They put a special paste on their bald head to stop the hairs from growing back anymore. Ning felt his own bald head and thought, this feels so weird. However, he had already come to terms with the fact that he would be bald today, so it wasn't all that bad. They were then led into the sect. The sect was a simple place with the important buildings at the center and all the residential places around them. They were allowed to choose whichever house they wanted and could live in them. They were all small cottages, so Ning found himself a simple cottage towards the back of the sect and stayed there. It was already evening by the time he got to the cottage, so he decided to cultivate for now. For the past 30 days, his cultivation speed had exploded and his growth had become very apparent. He could already feel the next breakthrough approaching, and it was just a matter of time. Even his body was getting used to the chi in the atmosphere. He was sure that very soon, his body would be fully adapted to the chi and he would no longer have to be constrained by it. Today was the first day of his time in the Pure Cleansing Sect. Unlike Mist Origin Sect, which only asked for money for everything, the Pure Cleansing Sect only sought to help others. So, the first thing Ning did in the morning was going to the library to read. According to the guidebook, you were not allowed to bring back the books, however, you were allowed to stay there reading as long as you liked. Ning had a month of free time before he would have to go work in the Physicians Guild. He had no idea what he was supposed to do in the Physicians Guild. He doubted it was anything like what the First Elder did. He wanted to read everything in the library. He didn't really need to learn from the book directly, but he wanted to keep his energy if he could. If it gets too annoying, I will just get the system to teach me stuff. Just like with the Beast's information and Mist Origin Sect's lack of it, the system might have way more than what these guys have, he thought. Walking out of his room, he felt cold air pass past his bald head. He felt really weird trying to comb his fingers through his hair, yet there being nothing there. Sigh, just a few months or a few years at best. If I don't like living here, I will leave, he thought. He made his way to the library only to find more than a few dozen disciples and elders to be already present here. Oh, I thought I was coming early morning, but it seems these people are quite diligent, Ning thought. All right, where should I start? He thought and randomly picked up a book and started reading it. It was a book about medicine. The book gave information about the various ways a medicine could be made and the various ways a medicine could be used. A medicine that could cure a person's headache by applying it on their forehead could also remove their stomachache if they ate it. There were also medicines that had different preparation methods, but in the end, did the exact same thing. Not all medicines were like this, and the book told which ones were which. Ning didn't really know how the medicines were prepared, but he still read through the book to the end. That was because of one thing he had bought this morning thanks to the energy he gathered in the last 30 days he had been in the tavern. Eidetic memory. For 2 billion energy, he had bought eidetic memory. To his disappointment, it wasn't all that great. Eidetic memory only helped him remember stuff when he wanted to remember it. The information wasn't stored in his mind the same way general information was. Reading a book and remembering back to page 32 at sentence 16 didn't help one immediately know stuff like the information the system directly put into his brain. With eidetic memory, you had to comb through the different memories to get to the point where you learned or experienced that stuff. That, Ning felt, was very annoying. Thanks to system's help, he could learn everything at once and remember it all the same. But the eidetic memory only helped him remember stuff, and recalling stuff with it was very hard. Still, he read the entire medicine book and closed his eyes. He could vividly remember the entire book as if it were in front of him, but it still took some time comprehending and learning the stuff. Thankfully, with his brilliant mind, that was relatively easier. Once he felt like he had grasped the knowledge in the book, he put the medicine book back and picked out a new book. This time, it was a method to turn ingredients to paste. Ning spent the next 10 hours reading and learning around 3 more books. In total, he had learned 5 books today. He returned back home and cultivated. For the next 2 days, he didn't leave the cottage. All he did was cultivate and tried to make sense of what was happening in the 5 books he read. He tried to understand how the 5 books came together and worked with each other. For now, they kind of did, but most didn't. Still, the days weren't at waste since he finally learned everything. On the 4th day, he once again left for the library and spent the entire day reading 4 different books. These books were much more information heavy than the last 5, so he could only read as much. He had to spend the next 3 days to correlate the 9 books with each other. By now, it could be said that he was one of the most knowledgeable people that had arrived in the sect in the last 5 years. However, no one was in the know yet. On the 7th day, he left for the library once more. This time, he read 5 books again. One of the books was too big to practically read in a day even with his speed, so he used the system to instantly learn it for a little over 300 million. That was just how vast the knowledge in that book was. It took him 5 days to completely consume the knowledge he had gained that day. With 14 books to relate with each other, it truly was a very hard job to see the relationship between one idea in a book and 3 different ideas in 3 different books. Still, he was managing to learn it. On the 12th day, he went to the library and learned 5 more books. After remembering them all, he came back to his cottage to connect the books again. On the 20th day, he learned 6 more books. That was the end of all the information-related books in the library that had anything to do with healing and medicine. Finally, he spent the next 10 days putting everything he had learned since joining the sect into a single pile and fully learning it. On day 30, he knew all the knowledge of medicine and healing in the sect.